It's kind of hot because the electricity just came back. I don't know if you didn't have the,
Yeah.
there wasn't electricity for you.
Got an FPL alert that was on. And we're in the same grid, so. I think she's in Toronto. Is Sally?
No, I think we're,
And I know a couple of Southwestern.
oh yeah?
Are we all ready? What's his name? Is he ready? Is he ready? Who?
Oh, yeah.
You ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
An hour ago, I don't know if you all know it, but about 45 minutes ago, we did not have power, so we're running a little behind the 8 ball, but I think we're all good to go. I'd like to go ahead and call this June 26th meeting to order. It is now 7:06 p.m. If we could please have a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, may I please have roll call?
Roll call, Mayor Cubillos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nickerson said he was running late. Councilperson Mathis also said that he was like 5 minutes away. Councilperson Draher?
Here.
Councilperson Roman?
Here.
Also present for the record, Janice Jacoby, Village Clerk, Cristia Lu, Village Manager, Norman Powell, Interim Village Attorney, Ronnie Hofnagel, Interim Chief.
Okay, great. Before we go ahead with the approval of the agenda, does everybody have a copy of the agenda
Has to be hanged.
and the attached documents? Is the attached documents on top of the piano?
What I did was the plan, the one that he sent today.
But the alcohol ordinance?
But if they want it, they got it in an email. Right? If they want it.
Yeah, they might want it. I think the only thing that's not on the top of the piano is a copy of the alcohol ordinance. So if you want it, please raise your hand, and we'll be sure to get you a copy. Okay. At this time, I'd like to go ahead for a motion for approval of the agenda.
A motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
The agenda for this evening has been approved by Councilperson Roman and second by Councilperson Dre. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Hearing none, the agenda for June 26 proceeds. At this time, is there approval for the minutes for the May 22nd regular council meeting?
I'll move approval.
The minutes have been moved for the May 22nd regular council meeting by Councilperson Roman. Is there a second? I'm going to go ahead and defer the minutes until we have more members on the council to see if we can get, if not, they will be moved to the next meeting. At this time, I want to go ahead and acknowledge any special visitors or presentations. At this time, first and foremost, I want to welcome all of you for being here this evening. It would be great to see more of you at every council meeting, so it's thank you for taking the time to come this evening. I want to go ahead and recognize our state senator. Senator Campbell is here to give us a legislative briefing. I also, thank you for being, I also want to recognize one of our former mayors who's here, Dr. Anna Ward. I saw her here. Thank you for being here. Okay, at this time, we have no further presentations. We're going to open it up for good and welfare. And then right after that, we'll go right into the agenda. So if anybody would like to come up and say anything, they have 3 minutes. If not, we're going to go right, we're going to go right into the agenda. Okay, hearing none. I want to welcome everybody to today's meeting. Today would have been a public hearing, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with a public hearing is exactly that. It's a hearing where the public comes in and can really hear a change that's going to be happening in their town. That hearing was postponed to a next meeting, but in lieu of, we still want to have a public discussion. There were reasons that came up throughout the week of residents that, for one reason or another, could not make it to any other meeting, but phoned one, if not many of us, on several concerns. And we felt it sufficient enough after having a conference call with the attorney and the manager and the planner that this is something that we were going to move forward and give another opportunity to residents to come out and be heard. Because at the end of the day, this is a decision that we make together, and we need to hear what the community needs, what the community wants, and what the community prefers, so that as we make decisions, we hope to make them wise and smart. With that said, so this is a public discussion. The proprietors of the building are here. It's Seth and Sam just walked in right now. So how I'd like to open it up, if it's okay with the council, is I want to hear comments from the residents. For those of you, I see some new faces. Just please come up, state your name and address for the record. And then this is a forum for you to feel free to say anything and everything. I mean, this is the time to do it. This is really the time to be heard, and this is the time to do it. So I really ask you to let's put everything aside and let's really have a conversation. Then when the concerns or questions have been voiced, I will ask Sam and Seth, which are the proprietors of the building, to be the ones to answer the questions, and then we will go ahead and formulate the dialogue. Are we all okay with that?
Yes. If I can be just a little bit more specific. We had originally intended to bring today the actual application approval for the site plan, but towards the end of the week, with a number of questions or comments that were raised by the residents, we discussed those issues and thought it would be better to have this forum to allow the community and also the applicant to hear the comments and to then maybe, if necessary, tweak the site plan in light of the communications. But let me be specific about what came up and what we were able to resolve with the assistance of the applicant and especially the applicant's attorney. There was a concern as to whether or not there was a covenant on the property that would have prevented the overall project from going forward. That item was brought to my attention by the mayor, I guess, through her research, or a resident.
Resident, yeah.
And the attorney and I, Mr. Adler, we looked at that issue over the last 2 days, and I'm confident that the covenant that would have restricted residential use on the property is no longer valid because of in general, the Marketable Record Title Act. And the applicant's attorney is here. He can expand further if anyone has questions on that. The other issue that came up, which had been at least put to bed as my understanding prior to my being the village attorney or interim village attorney, was a buffer between the project and the residential community. Initially, there was not an overriding concern as to whether or not there would be a wall or some type of structure, but that's still a little bit up in the air. And we really want the public to comment on that and also give the applicant an opportunity to hear those comments and provide their suggestions. The other issue was, or is, ingress and egress from the property. Folks have raised concerns about how the flow of traffic going into and leaving the property may affect the overall residential community. We discussed that with the applicant, and we're going to discuss those issues tonight. The last two issues, which one of which is on the agenda for an ordinance of first reading, concerns the alcohol sales. Clearly, this project, an important component of it concerns whether or not the lease space would have the ability to serve alcohol. So we thought it would be a better idea to have that discussion first in the first reading, so there'd be some clarity on that, and also to allow input from the community as to what hours and what days alcohol would be available on the site and incorporated into the ordinance that would amend the existing code provisions. Last, the applicant will also be here to listen to comments concerning reservation of green space on the property and listen to input from the community. So I think I covered the items that came up that we wanted to have input on before we took it to the first reading so that there would be no uneasiness.
Thank you for the clarity, I appreciate it. If I can just ask everybody on the council, as well as everybody who comes up to the podium, speak as close as possible to the microphone so that when the minutes come out, they're legible. I'm always told that the only person they hear is me, really clearly, and they have to rewind when it's somebody else. So if we can speak really close, because that's the only way we're going to have like the best possible minutes so that you all can be able to read thereafter. With that said, we're going to start it off. We can ask the applicant to come up, or should we ask the residents to come up first?
I think the residents...
Okay, so we're gonna, usually it's generally 3 minutes. What we'll do is, it'll still be 3 minutes, but if you still have something else to come up, just come up and say it, but we'll try to allow those residents that haven't come up in an effort to try to really get as many residents up as possible. So at this time, I ask each of you who have questions, comments, concerns. It could be what the attorney specifically outlined, or maybe there's something else that has not been brought to our attention. This is the time to please come up and state your name and address for the record. Yes.
There was one last item I overlooked. There was also concerns about asbestos on the property. That also came through concerns from the residents. The developer or applicant did conduct an asbestos survey, which came back unremarkable, so that's not a concern. However, that's really not a use or special exception concern. We did address it with the applicant, so that also is checked off, and that's not an issue.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, if we can just come up and you can line up here, and again, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Joni Hector, 260 Northeast 88th Street. You would have received a letter from me this week. Hi, Seth. I was the one that specifically was asking for a covenant, not necessarily to maintain the property as a residential lot, but I have concerns, being your immediate next door neighbor, about having paved parking right next to my house. Very, very, very concerned about that, and concerned about how it affects the character of the neighborhood. That being said, I have asked for a covenant to at least allow a portion of the lot to remain green. Secondarily, I have decided, now that we're putting in this very nice deck in our backyard, thank you, permitting department, that I would prefer to have a masonry wall in the area that is currently the tot lot. So the back area, I would rather have a masonry wall so that I've got some degree of privacy, can really enjoy my backyard. I'm still in favor of the front portion. I particularly divided it up into tot lot, green lot, because I thought that made sense. I'd like in the green lot area to have the buffer be a green space with landscaping instead. But my concern with a wall there would be that I find it would probably be very difficult for me to back in and out of my driveway, and it would impact being able to see things as far as traffic is concerned. Having said that, and I think you know, I really am trying to be a good neighbor, and I really do like the idea of a lot of the project, and do not mind the idea, speaking otherwise, that it would be great to walk next door, sit at a bar, and have a nice glass of wine. So there's a lot of things that I find to be very appealing about it. And what I'm really truly hoping for is that we can get to a point where this is a win-win for everybody. Something that benefits the community, benefits the village tax dollar-wise, and benefits me as a neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Joni.
We address it later, everything later?
You can do it right after if you like. Is there any, yeah? You want to listen to everybody? Okay, anybody else wants to come up?
Johnny's
You can close the public meeting now.
No other public comments? This is the time.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Lightfoot Ward, 415 Northwest 88 Terrace. I want to know what the issue is, period. That's not fair. Close the public hearing and you haven't spoken. I want to know what the issue is. I really do. I wasn't here when all the stuff was going on. I don't know how many people were, but congratulations, I weren't. I want to hear what's going on before you close the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments before we ask them to come up? Okay, so why don't they hear a little bit from you all, and then they may have more questions that'll come from that.
Seth Kadinsky, my address, did I forget it? 3530 Pine Tree Drive, Miami Beach. And yes, you've been a great, everybody is actually, even people that don't agree to everything, which I never really expected anyway, all the comments have done in with the trying to improve what we're doing and not to shut us down. So I appreciate everybody's help. Specifically regarding we were never going to pave that lot, just so you know. That was not, we'd be used for overflow parking, but in a grass way, we're not paving it. And that was never I'm not trying to parse words, but we weren't going to pave it. And the idea originally to not do the masonry wall was an accommodation that you originally made. This is, right, so we appreciate it. And I would really like to know if we can do in pieces. It'll have to be all or nothing, or can we accommodate what she's asking for? Or maybe you, in terms of, so part of it, she's asking for part of it be masonry, part of it be the landscaping. You know, can we do that way?
Half of it to be a wall and the other half to
Well,
be...
that's what she was asking, because basically there's two lots.
Yeah.
Where her house is and where she's putting the deck. What she's saying is where she's putting the deck, she'd rather have a more permanent wall, than where the house is, not to have a big wall right there.
The other thing...
Fine with me, by the way.
The resident that lives, but the resident that lives on the back and behind you, that he faces 87th Street, his name escapes me right now, he asked for a fence as well, but wooden. So my only thing is that we can't have a wooden, we can't have masonry, we can't have green.
What I would like, since it's just a discussion anyway, is I would like to make a design, we have no design.
Yeah.
It's been conversation, maybe to do a design and get everybody happy before we actually have the public hearing. That's really where I think makes sense.
But we would definitely need the design before we move to public hearing, but yeah, yeah.
Make it like it was my idea.
Yeah, okay.
Is that okay? We'll do that, we'll present. Okay, great, okay. That was really it. I mean,
I'm just going to say Brian Adler for the record, lives in suburb 1450 Brickell Avenue, Suite 2300. And just to, number one, thank the council and the village attorney who, to go through and afford us the opportunity to really address the concerns that were raised. I think we were able to address the concerns that were raised, and I don't think anything else was raised today, except for that maybe perhaps people weren't aware of what the development was. And this was not an attempt to close a public hearing to shut you out. There was this was presented last month with regard to the development. Tonight was going to be the entire development presentation for approval, but because of the concerns that were raised, the village asked us if we would at least hold the forum and allow the residents to speak and address the residents, which we absolutely graciously appreciate the opportunity to do, and so we accommodated. So we are here to answer any questions that the village has or address any of the concerns that were raised. I think we were able to go through most of the concerns that were raised, and we're willing to work with council and with the village planners in between and with the residents in between, and I think that's what you were looking for. So we're here to answer any other questions, but if no one has any other concerns, we don't want to bring up any, so.
I'm going to go ahead and ask Adam Old, who's behind you, to kind of state a name and address for the record.
Adam Old, 140 Northeast 86th Street. I like this project, the way it was presented. I was at the last town hall. I love the idea of a restaurant, coffee shop, beer and wine, liquor, whatever, I'm fine with that. Maybe somebody else has a problem. The walls, however you want them, no more parking, great. Everything's good, I like it all. I like the New World Symphony coming. I'm sorry, New Deco Ensemble. I'm sorry. I was doing a budget thing. But what I'd like to see, since this is a special zoning, special area plan, or whatever we call them, I would like to see a commitment by the developer that the things that we talked about at the town hall meeting and maybe even at the public hearing are like a little bit more like cemented in reality, in contractual language. For example, like, I don't want to just open it up to anything, right? I'd like, if you're going to have a certain number of square footage for local nonprofits or local businesses or whatever, like, I'd like to see that before we vote on the plan. Because this is a whole block. You're asking for some stuff. We're giving some stuff. You're getting some stuff. I like the idea that you've proposed, but I'd like to make sure that that's what happens and not something else. So that's my only comment, really.
Thank you, Adam.
Hi, I'm Linda Brumfield at 1 Northeast 87. I wasn't going to speak, but then I realized, I've been coming since the beginning of last year, before right after the hurricane, or was it before? Anyway, and what I liked that was addressed, and a lot of us were talking about, was that to make sure the community first kind of thing, and that you would look within the community for jobs and ideas, and it was accepted, and I like that, because we ended up having an engineer in the room, music engineer, landscaping, waiters, that kind of thing. And that was my most important thing, is that it takes a village, so that making sure that, you look within first, and sounds like you're going to do it, so thank you.
Did you state your name and address for the record? Yes. Okay, you did, okay. All right, sorry, thank you.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is you don't want like a bait and switch kind of a thing, and I appreciate it. But in terms of a plan, we actually have the plan, and I'm glad to send it to you again, but it pretty much defines the areas that we're talking about having, and all our study, the traffic study we did, was based on occupancy in those spaces, so that were we to expand out of those, we would actually fall out of compliance with, let's say, the traffic study, what you were originally approving. But the sanctuary itself, the space there is well-defined, and the restaurant space is actually defined. And if you want to take a look at the plan that we're using, and I'm happy to send it to you again.
I mean, I've seen the plan and it looks great. It's a little broad. It's, downstairs retail, like that could be a local retailer, it could be a mattress store, for example, right? Like, so like, I don't want to.
Well, the truth is, it could be anything that's by code. We haven't really, because we hadn't really had a timeline, we haven't really been marketing it, so we don't brought forward any other uses, but I don't really know what to tell you, but we certainly aren't making any other representations other than we'll stay within the code, which is kind of a lame thing to say, but that's really all I could offer at this point in terms of the actual uses that we're going to put in, other than what you already know about.
But I guess you're kind of like...
Hey, Adam, if you just come to the podium, because you know the rules. You know you got to come to the podium.
So the council is aware that there's a vision being promoted here, and if we say anything that's allowed by the code, that's fine. You have the right to build anything that's allowed by the code currently. So you're asking for a special exception to the code for your particular project. For the events, for the whole kind of thing is a special exception. So, right? So, and the events are being granted on the basis of this vision that you've presented to us, which we all like. But we don't want the events to come and then, the uses aren't in alignment with the vision, is what I'm saying. So I think it would be easy for you to narrow it down a little bit for us. I think the council could narrow it down as a condition for the event, but that's just my opinion.
Because it's actually not something that I'm prepared to offer. I can't, we'll be hamstrung, but thanks. And one general comment, though, is that obviously the different types of uses play off of each other, and if we were to stock it with uses that people didn't like, it would be a bad business decision on our end anyway, but whatever that.
If I may, Madam Mayor, for clarity, Section 1753 of the Village Code says that all applications that come, all site plans that come before the council require site plan approval. So the entire development, as with any development in the village, requires site plan approval. The special exception that is being sought is specifically limited solely for the events, and so for the event use. So I just want to clarify that because I think there may be some confusion. The actual code requires site plan approval for all development. So we're coming in to comply with the site plan approval requirement, and the special exception, again, is only limited for the events. So.
Joni Hector again. Seth, I was very much aware that you said you weren't planning on paving that lot, which I greatly appreciate, and I have no problem whatsoever with it being overflow parking. The reason why I specifically asked for a covenant is we do not know how long you could be owning the property. You could turn around and sell it in 3 months or 3 years, and the covenant is there to remain in effect for as long as that property is there. And that is the thing that I feel is very, very, very important as far as the neighborhood character is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, look, our plan is to keep it that way. There's a chance, it is zoned residential, there's a chance at some point, maybe not us, somebody else, that might actually build a home there. And if that throws everything else out of compliance, then that would have to be worked at. But as long as it's being used for what it is, it's a condition of approval. I have not so much a covenant necessarily, but a condition of approval that if we're using it for parking, it stays like it is, or green space or whatever. I have no problem with that as a condition. But there's a chance that at some point there could be a house. I mean, like you said, we don't own it. Somebody will have that right to do that. I wouldn't want to take that away from somebody else in the future, or us if we decide. I doubt that would happen, but that it could. So as long as we're doing it the way we're presenting it, if that's a condition of approval, then we're fine with that. Okay.
Deborah Tomkinson, 241 Northeast 88th Street. I thought
you can lower it to you.
Oh,
Yeah, so you don't have to.
I thought the special exemption was to discuss alcohol tonight.
The special exception is for the event space. The alcohol ordinance is an agenda item that we will be discussing after.
Thank you.
But, discuss now. But if you, Deborah, that doesn't say you cannot interject what you want to say about the alcohol now. You can now as well. Any other public comments?
Gregory Jacobov, 117 Northeast 88th Street. I haven't been involving myself in this topic, but I'm interested. And I would like to know if the building is purely a business venture, because what's your name with the beard? You spoke before? Adam, you said that it's important for you to see that there's non-profit organizations and retail But as I see it, the whole building is a business venture, and even if an office is used for a non-profit organization, it wouldn't make a difference because it would still pay rent like a business, because the way that it would be paid for is the question of the non-profit organization, but the whole sanctuary is going to be a business. So that's actually now a question to the council. Is the council in any way interested to have any kind of village or community-related activities go on there, not as a non-profit organization that then pays rent to the owner as a business, but that there's going to be like a give and take concerning, I don't know, the legal changing of the status quo in order to make it possible for activities to happen that are organized in the village for the village. That's a question I would have.
We actually met with we met with Sam and Seth maybe 2 months ago. I did with the attorney and the village manager. We thought of offices, the village offices being there. We thought that would be a really good partnership and venture. They even agreed to give us, a frontage as well. It's right now the finances, we couldn't put it together as far as making that happen, but in that arena, we've been pretty good as far as they have been with us, as far as what we can do there, whether we want to do an event there or anything of that nature. Nothing solidified or formal, but definitely we've had the conversation, and the meeting that we had last was about if our village offices could move there so that the police department could actually have this, the village hall would still be here, but the police department would have more room and they would have that, and then our offices would be there, and we felt it was most central for the residents.
So would the village be interested to use this, like the event space? I think that's what was former the congregation, like the big church room. Would it be interested in using it for exhibitions or to like somehow have someone in charge of culture and then use it and not only have it as a place that can be rented like by any outside organization?
We haven't even had that conversation, but that's why we're here. We hadn't had the conversation at all. I mean, that's something that we haven't even spoken to Sam and Seth about, as far as a joint venture where, as opposed to renting it to different tenants, I'm thinking we would have a portion and have like a culture display, whether it's Albertal residents. There was talk of doing an Albertal History Museum because we have such rich history here, but nothing concrete. But again, that's why we're here. I mean,
when like if I would be interested to give inputs, like is now the time?
Yes.
So what are we going to do about it?
Yes. Well, you're just telling, you're just giving us an idea, and we're all smiling because I think that we wanted to do something, and I know I was one that I had spoken to a couple of residents. We just celebrated our 80th anniversary, and we have 2 residents who we're actually probably more than that, but they're really historian buffs, and they have so much stuff, and we have a lot of stuff. So we thought of doing some kind of like, a welcome center where it'll have all of Albertal history in there, and it was a conversation that hasn't really come to fruition. You need to get people excited, and you need people sort of kind of like jump on the boat with you, and maybe help you carry that to fruition. What we always say, it takes a village, and it takes a few of us to come up with a great idea, and then we have to sort of go with it. But I'll ask the council to give it
I've already sent a letter. List of
okay, so I'm going to sit down again, but I'm going to let it be known that I'm interested to. But that I have a vision. I've got a vision. Like I do work with other institutions in the Miami area, with the Little Haiti the Little Haiti Cultural Center, and also with the public library and with different museums. And I know it's very difficult to get space and to get approved to have things happening in spaces, because it's always the community that says, okay, the community first. So due to the fact that I am a resident here, I would like to see this here too.
I'm sorry, you said your last name is Jacobson?
Jacobo.
Jacobo.
Yeah.
117 Northeast 88. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. No, thank you for being here.
Let me just address that. Just also want to point out that from the day we bought it, we've had the art fair there. We've had the police department use it for car storage. after the storm, they use it as a staging. We didn't say anything about the parking lot, which got kind of torn up because we figured we had to do some work there anyway, but, so I think we have and will continue to demonstrate our desire to be that kind of a neighbor, where if the city has a need, we don't have to have our hand out every time. That's certainly not the intent. The events we're talking about, the weddings, something a little more formal and fancy. If there's a meeting or a daytime meeting that's not booked, I mean, we certainly are open to all that kind of discussion. But I really just want to point out that we've already started to act in the way that you are asking us to act so far. I think that hopefully you'll back me up on that.
Yes. I'm sorry that I did leave that out. I don't know how long you've been here, but yes, in 2015, we had an amazing art fair that was chaired by then Vamati Roman, and David Ward, who's back there, was a really big part of it, and Sam and Seth graciously donated the space. We did not have to pay for it, and it was actually probably the best art fair that we had. We had it 2 years in a row there, so they have, in that sense, really been community-driven as well, so yes. Any other public comments? Deborah?
Deborah Tompkinson, 241 Northeast 88th Street. You talk about being community-driven and being a good neighbour. Can I say that all three things that you actually quoted, from the art fair to car storage to hurricane debris, was an offence to my property. I live there. The art fair caused traffic disruption, noise, rubbish, of which I had to email about, and I notice Omar's not here tonight. The car storage resulted in a car fire, of which the one night I slept through and knew nothing about it, and the hurricane debris was actually an atrocious time with regards to cars, people arriving at 5 a.m., noise, dust, just general mayhem. So if that's being a good neighbour, I dread to think what this project is going to bring for someone who lives on 88th Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
That wasn't their fault.
Yes, Gigi? Great, thank you.
Good evening, council people. My name is Gigi Kropp. I live at 130 Northeast 88th Street. And I haven't actually been following in great detail all of the aspects of this project. But one thing that I think probably concerns me and maybe other members of the village, I also live on 88th Street, is the events. I mean, if there's an event there, the concern is there enough parking to accommodate all the people that attend the event? Because I think that's, an important issue. People don't want cars all over their lawns when we're trying to maintain our beautiful village. So if there's a certain amount of people that the event hall will accommodate, is there enough parking to, for those people to attend without parking all over the streets? Then also, I guess there's a concern about the hours that the events are going to take place, and maybe the noise of the people coming and going. So I think those are probably some concerns that people might have. I mean, it's a nice concept. We all want to have nice restaurants and shops in El Patel, but I think it's the event situation that's a concern.
Thank you, Gigi.
If I may, Council, for the events. Parking on site per your village code requires 58 parking spaces. They're providing 128 parking spaces. They're actually providing 2.2 times the required parking. For the events, not only are they going to have sufficient parking, but they're also going to bring in valet to ensure that there's a smooth flow. So they don't want, they're committed to being good neighbors, and I think that one of the things is also committed to having successful events. If you have an event that creates the overflow of traffic, people don't necessarily want to go back. So it's in their best interest too. So they have the valet parking, 2.2 times the number of spaces, and for the grass area, for the events, they do have it as the ability to accommodate overflow parking. Additionally, many people these days are using Uber and Lyft to go to events. I go to the beach with Uber and Lyft. People do not necessarily want to drive anymore because Uber facilitates the ability to enjoy a beverage without the risk after. So I think that our changing community as a whole will lead to Uber, Lyft, and more than ample parking on site.
Copy the latest map that we got. Yeah, no, because we're going to talk about that next. The map that was just sent to us last. Oh, I mean,
Dr. Ward, 415 Northwest 88th Terrace. Is this the church property?
Yes, ma'am.
Why y'all can't say that? She just said, is this the church property? My husband just said, isn't this the church property you're talking about? I said, I think so. It's the church property. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Now I know what the problem is. Now I know what the snowball is all about. It's y'all snowballing us. Come on. Either we want something to happen at the old sanctuary, or we don't. But all this other stuff, what do you mean you don't have a plan? How is it on the agenda? They don't have a plan. We don't have a picture. How did it get there? And we're going to vote it tonight? You're going to vote it tonight?
No.
That's okay. I didn't see it. Look, this is what they got out there, okay? This is what they have out there.
On that note for everybody, all of the renderings for the sanctuary, which is the old Raider Church, is on the village website homepage on the right side. If you go to the widget there, I think it's the second widget, it says sanctuary renderings. There's about 7 or 9 attachments. If you go on there, absolutely everything that we have received is right on there. If you need it emailed to you, just let us know, but it's all on there.
No. This is not the time.
And Dr. Ward, we are not voting on this tonight. This is a public discussion.
And after we finish it, well, after we finish this, not it.
After we finish this discussion, I think the last thing is going to be most likely the ingression and outgression of the parking and coming in and out of it. They will have to present something that the council would like to present to their residents, and then we will hopefully have a public hearing, and then we will vote.
This is all preliminary.
Well, the first time that we got the renderings was January of this year, where we had a town hall. I thought you were here for that. And no, they went to full planning and zoning board committee. While it did pass the committee, thereafter there were some concerns that came up to all of us from a few residents that will be directly impacted. So we felt it necessary to have another public discussion before we even do any consideration and move forward. That's what, and so now that brings us to here today.
Thank you for the clarity.
You're welcome.
Gregory Jacobov, 117 Northeast 88th Street. I have a question about the plans, the documents that were put on the village website. There's one plan of Northeast 88th Street, and there are all the buildings are yellow except for the buildings right and left of Northeast 2nd Avenue from the bridge to Little River until Miami Shores. And the first row of buildings, not only the sanctuary but all the buildings, are in this purple color, which means that they're going to be commercial. Is this the case already, or is it something that's going to be voted on?
That is the case already. That was the comp plan that we had worked on for about 3 to 4 years, and that was passed last year.
Okay. Thank you.
We're still in public comments? If there are no public comments, I'm going to bring it back to the council. And the last, as it relates to this site plan or conversation as far as the whole project, I think we need to talk about parking and the coming in and out of the church. One resident who is not here, who's traveling, Courtney, brought to our attention a few times the exiting out of the property. The concern was if you exit out of the property onto 87th Street and you head west, you're going to cross over, no, you head east, you're going to cross over a double yellow line. The other concern that has come up, and from these concerns, I think they're ready to talk to us about something that they worked on, is that when you're coming out of an event of the venue or restaurant and what have you, I think predominantly the flow of the traffic was coming out, whether it was 87 or 88th Street, and it was coming onto those streets, but heading east. Well, we all know that heading east is completely our whole town. So we were hoping that there would be another option, which would make more sense, is that if you come out of the property onto 87th Street, you can head west, because that'll take you to Northeast 2nd Avenue, which if you're gonna drive to the event, chances are you use I-95. So you're gonna need to go to Northeast 2nd Avenue anyway. And the same thing for 88th Street, which road is a little narrower than 87th Street. When you get out of the church onto 88, we would prefer it to go left, because again, that'll take you to Northeast 2nd, as opposed to if you head right, it'll take you straight down the private homes, and you can just only imagine what that may be like. So on that note, we discussed it. I believe the attorney spoke about it with Seth, Sam, and Brian, their attorney, and I think that as a result of that, they are willing, they're going to present something a little differently, so I'd like to definitely hear that. And then the last component, and I don't know if that is addressed here, is when you look at the parking that they have set up, it's a one-way on one side and it's a one-way on the other side. So let's say if you come onto the building from 87th Street, if you turned left onto the property and you have no parking, you're going to have to come back out again. So I don't know if we're going to talk about internal, and I think that was the last email that we might have gotten, where an internal turn on the parking lot might not be something that we can do. So if we can just talk a little bit about those two and allow the residents to opine if they have to on that. So on that note, if the council has anything else, I think that was the last concern that I know came up, which I believe is one of the biggest, along with the noises. How is the flow of the traffic coming in and out going to be managed? Does the council have anything? So if you guys are going to come up and I'm talking about this drawing, which was received, I think we just got it today. So I don't know if you all have a copy of that. I believe they're on top of the panel, but we just got this today after a few conversations with the proprietors.
So, if I may, Madam Mayor, we haven't had the opportunity to review that, and we did review the concerns with regard to the yellow lines. One of the things that we were recommending is potentially putting no left turn signs onto 87th Street. So we did review, and there is a double yellow line. With any development, no matter whether it's within the village or anywhere else, there's always going to be traffic enforcement issues. People do it when they turn up any street. So that could end up being an enforcement issue. Our goal was to put up a no left turn, so no left turn on 87, so that it would avoid going across the yellow lines, and also requesting that our valet, because these are going to be issues during the valet, is that the valet encourages individuals that are leaving that are not residents of El Portal to not go through the residential community. So the reality is people put things in ways, and people are going to go the way that they want to go. So if they head up 2nd Avenue and they want to go east, they're going to head to 89th Street, and that's all it's really doing, is diverting traffic from one street to another street. So we could try and accommodate by putting signage, because we definitely agree that with the yellow lines that are there, that people should be informed not to make a left turn, because it's more than a double yellow line, it's a divided yellow line with bars across it. It's clear, but that may be an enforcement issue. With regard to the ingress and egress, for the large events, so as I noted, we have more than 2.2 the number of parking spaces. So we do not anticipate a parking issue unless there's going to be an event. And during the events, we have valet. And so the valet parking can then control which way the cars go, which way the pickup and the drop-off turns, and so that people are not going, when there's valet, the concern regarding entering the property, exiting, driving to try and find a parking space is alleviated, because it's only really a concern when there's an event, and that will be controlled by valet. So we have not reviewed what you're reviewing, and we will take the opportunity. We did hear about it right before the meeting, and we spoke with Juan that we will reach out to him to see. It may not be something that's feasible, as you noted, so if it's not feasible, right now, it's been operated as a religious facility, which often has, religious facilities often can have a large number of members, especially during an event, a wedding, or anything else. So that's something that's historic to the site. We look at it and say, okay, we're going to have valet, we're going to restripe it, we're going to provide additional parking, et cetera. So there's going to be certain things that are going to, and additional signage. So there's going to be certain things that are going to be within our control, and there's certain things that with any development are not within our control, but are going to be enforcement issues, perhaps with the village as well. So, was there other concerns that I'm missing regarding the traffic?
Gigi, come up.
Gigi Crop, 130 Northeast 88th Street. Well, you talked so lovingly about the valet, but the question is, where are the valet going to park the cars that they're valeting?
We have a plan which I'll show you, which we actually submitted to the city.
Do you have, other locations where you're going to be parking these cars?
I'll show you.
So, also, I mean, this,
Gigi.
although it was a,
Approach the bench.
although it was a sanctuary, it hasn't operated as the sanctuary in a long time.
For anybody who wants a copy of what they're looking at, I have it here if they'd like. Which is also on the website.
Your packages. Those are from your packages.
Excuse me?
This?
No, that's the valet. That's the valet part.
That's on the website, because that's the
And it's
big
also on the
package.
website.
Sí, pero en color. No, we don't have a paper. Hey, tomamos más, hacemos ahora si we don't have a paper. No tengo haciendo copias para que my shampoo. Oh my God.
So what, Seth, maybe whatever you're telling Gigi, you said in the microphone, that'd be great.
That's whatever I want.
What I was pointing out is that, even though we're having events and they're going to be, the valet is going to park the cars in their parking lot. But what about the people that are already at the project, that are eating dinner in the restaurants, or that they're in the offices and they're parking their cars, and their cars are parked? I mean, are they going to have to go through valet to park their car when their cars, say, all the way already there? Or if they park before the event commences? So that it might get a little confusing for the people in the restaurant. Or they might not have access to their own cars.
Did you want to go ahead and answer that, other Senator Sanders? Which her concern is if there's an event that's going to start, let's say, 8 o'clock, but let's say there's 60 people at the restaurant that have all, for the, maybe 50% of them drove, and parking is somewhat limited, like where are those cars going to go? And if there's already an overflow of parked cars, and then, say, another 30, 40 cars come to valet? That was her question.
She makes an excellent point. And if I was to stand here and tell you we've got it all figured out, I'd be lying to you. But the plan we put together was based on not just people being in the events, but also people being in the restaurant. The logistics of the flow is definitely something we need to work out. And I really truthfully haven't given it a lot of thought, but maybe a couple hours before, I mean, that's our responsibility to figure it out. It's absolutely a good point, but we haven't figured it out. But just again, the calculations were based on populating the event and people being at the restaurant. The flow of all that is definitely a logistics issue which we will deal with.
I agree with that.
Yes. One more thing. Your planner, your award-winning planner, Juan plus Irvia, showed us a plan that he drew which keeps the flow internal, and we're fine with that. So we would like just to work with him to refine it and present that as revise the valet plan to show that. Probably an improvement over what we've done anyway, so we're fine with that. So it keeps all the flow on the property, not going out to 88th and back down again.
No, I think that, I think that that's, if the residents would see that, that's definitely a change. Any questions on what we've just heard? Whether it's the parking, do you have a question that you feel did not get answered? You don't have to raise your hand, you can just come on up. It's open, you come on up.
Deborah Tompkinson, 241 Northeast 88th Street. I've just had a quick look at what I think is the valet parking.
Can you put your microphone closer to yours?
It appears that the valet parking is really the ordinary parking spaces. So there's no specific valet spaces. And having the few times gone out and done valet parking, the flow of the valet parking depends on the boys that are driving the car, the number of boys that are available, so there could still be a build-up of specific valet parking. And the valet parking entrance is on 88th Street, which is my street. So it means that the entrance to 88th Street doesn't meet the guidelines of being an ingress of so many meters from a main road. So, because otherwise the traffic will build up from Northeast 2nd Avenue. Thank you.
Gigi Crop again. I'm not addressing now the parking situation, but I do have a very interesting question about how long do you expect it will take to complete the project, and when do you plan on commencing work, I mean, after the approval?
Okay, that's an easy one for a change. So we've had plans into the city, and now they're at the county, going to a lot of the different county agencies. We're in Health, Department of Environmental Resource Management right now, which is the last county department. They're a little slow. We are hoping that we get out of the county in the next 30 days, back into the city with our plans, and hopefully that by the time we're through this process and hopefully approved, we will also be in a position to pull a building permit. So all of that, in theory, could be another, well, we got summer coming up, but maybe 120 days, let's just say, for argument's sake. And the actual construction and occupancy will be anywhere from 10 to 12 months after that. So with a little luck, the end of next year, we'll have a Christmas celebration in our parking lot. We will not charge the city for, I'm on record now, that's it. I'm locked in.
But you'll have to pay for the permit to have a party.
Sam will pay.
Any other questions?
Dwight Garman, 41588 Terrace. I have a question on the valet. Is it just valet parking, or is it's valet and all you park your own vehicle? That's what I want to know. Because not everybody wants someone to drive their vehicle to park it. We want to have the, I would like to have the ability to park my vehicle. If it's a bicycle or the Rolls Royce, how I want to park as long as I'm in compliance. And just want to ask you, was it just valet, or was it going to be just, you know, person can park their own car?
Well, I mean, first of all, events don't all fall into one category, so it's not like every event's going to have, 300 people there also. So I would say, to answer your question, that probably some of the bigger events, we probably wouldn't be able to accommodate that, but on some of the events that aren't going to have, maybe have half the amount of people, we don't have to have the full valet mitigation plan, so we could do a little bit of both. But there probably will be times when it would be inconceivable to have people parking their own cars. I'm not a valet operator, but that's more about my sense on what, based on the plan we put together, what it would be like if we had full capacity on certain nights, which is not expected to be all that often anyway. But okay, another partial answer, I'm sorry, but that's like.
But Seth, if I may, you are going to have self-parking, just to answer one of the part of this
No,
question.
we're going to have self-parking all the time. Yes. It's only when the events and when we expect the crowd to get so big that we had, yeah, absolutely. We're not going to have valet 24/7. And if there's no event, there will be no valet parking.
David Ward, 488 Northeast 90th Street. Curious about the project. Is the sanctuary currently on county water and sewer, or is it a septic system?
The septic system.
And how does that impact the viability of the project? Is there a possibility that the county is going to say that you cannot have the restaurant of the size you want based on the septic capability? And I guess if it's an issue, then I wonder if the council should even go forward with approval of a plan with knowing that that's a significant obstacle.
And David, just an FYI, we actually had this conversation at a meeting, and there is, the last that we heard was, well, I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, and that's a great point. We are staying on septic, and we have been working closely with the health department on this issue. We've provided all the calculations for what we plan to do there. We feel that we meet the requirements that we need in order to get the permitting. The health department signed off on it, and the DERM signed off on it, and then it went to health. Health is now getting comfortable with it. It took us a while to get DERM comfortable with it. We are not there yet. We feel like we will get there, and if they said something like, you're not there yet, then it certainly would impact what we can do on the property. There's no doubt about that. But we're not there yet. And the council's they're not approving a restaurant. The restaurant's approved use by right. It's really, the discussion now is really about the events anyway. And the bigger issue on the septic is regards to the restaurant, not so much the events. So, is that a satisfactory answer for everybody? Stand here.
David Ward, 488 Northeast 90th Street. So I guess the question is if the restaurant is not viable because of the septic situation, then what becomes of that space? Does it automatically become additional retail space, or maybe that's part of the plan? I'm not sure.
Well, we could scale it back But yeah, it's just general commercial space at that point. We feel we're gonna, at some level, work something out. We feel that way, but you're right, that the chances are, there's a chance that it could be now, but it doesn't necessarily affect certainly the discussion. Actually, it will reduce the traffic if that's the case, but make some people happy maybe, but it's a little premature, but yes, that's a reality. If they say absolutely not, then we have to go back to the drawing board with what we're doing.
Thank you, David. Any other public comments? Okay. Hearing none, does the council have anything before, for either Seth or Sam or their attorney? So sort of to wrap up, I think the major points that we have that I've seen or that I've heard this evening, and the council interject if I left something out, clearly is the masonry wall as to is the length of it, is it going to be green space, is it going to be wooden, what is that going to look like? That was the first one. The covenant with the green space to ensure that it stays, if it's not a covenant, then what can we do to guarantee that that stays preserved as our green area? Language that kind of solidifies, I know you said no, but language that solidifies that what the vision that both the charrette and your drawings convey is actually going to be language that's going to come to life. I think that was another one. Clearly, events like tenants, who's renting that, and it's kind of get more clarity. And then valet, if valet really does come in on 88th Street, then is it a really violation of setback? I don't have the answer to that. I don't expect you all to have it this evening, so I know that that was another one. And then I think the last one overall is just parking and the in and out and what that looks like, and the comfort of if people are going to be at a restaurant and they're going to be valeting. I mean, I was assuming maybe you'll block off like 10 parking spaces. I mean, I don't know. If we can have more of a feel of what that's going to look like. I mean, I'm sure you don't know, if you're going to have the sort of the success of the events, but I think we should plan for, worst case scenario where you're going to be super successful. Right now, wouldn't be the worst, but it may not be the what they would want around you, but there has to be some ease. And I think the last thing is to open it as Joni opened it, and that is to have a win-win-win. It's the only way that that this will be a great partnership. And I think that the residents, that especially those that live in the area that completely abut it, all of us need to feel assured of that, but I think that they predominantly need to, because I live on 91st and Northwest 2nd. I live abutted to a school, and in hindsight, I didn't think about it when I bought the property, but they deliver food to the kids at 4 o'clock in the morning every single day, and they cut the grass at 5 o'clock in the morning every day, and they do it on the weekend. Fortunately, my husband and I are early risers, but when we want to not be early risers, it wakes the dog. So, I mean, I understand. I empathize with those that live abutted to a property that is not a home. So I just want to be sure that we have factored in, any possible scenario and foresee, the unforeseen.
Yeah. None of the issues that have been raised are things, A, that we can't deal with, or B, that are outlandish or unreasonable. I mean, these are quality of life issues. If I lived in the neighborhood, I'd be standing up asking the same questions. So I kind of apply that to my answers. We will work on the valet, the mitigation plan, and address the issue about employee parking versus valet parking. I think that's an excellent point, which we hadn't really thought of. We'll try to answer that for you. I will get a plan and sit with Joni and talk about what that buffer will look like. Improving the plan as your plan as one is suggested, I think, is a real improvement. And by the way, with the way that the valet works is you come in off of 88th, and when you leave, you go out 87, and you have to take a right. Because you're going to come in off 88th, coming south, drop your car off. Then when you pick it up, you're heading south again. You just go out 87th and pull right. You're not actually ever. Well, I guess now that we're doing that cut through, you could probably circle back around. So we'll talk about that. But yes, we'll address these next time you see us. Hopefully, we have satisfactory answers for everybody.
I just want to close in saying, It would really help if you keep the sanctuary looking pretty outside.
I was waiting for that. We almost made it.
That would really help. That would,
You have to talk to the head of
appease the neighborings and.
The head of maintenance, Sam Serrero.
That does not help.
I know.
That does not help, so we are politely asking you before you are cited to be sure that you.
Can we get Sam on the public record saying he'll do better? Yes,
And it can't just be 30 days after this meeting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, we understand.
I put that on there.
We fall short sometimes, we will admit that.
And I want to answer, someone asked me, I think it was Gigi, the length of time. Just so you know, we still have to see whatever they're going to come back with, and there's still going to be 2 readings that are public hearings, and they both will be at a council meeting, most like 2 readings? 1 reading? Sorry, apologize. Why I thought that was, okay, 1 public hearing. And we will be sure that it is publicly noted. I made an error, and I thank a resident for correcting it. It was not mailed to the residents. I thought it was mailed to the residents, but it wasn't. I thought that when it went through planning and zoning, it was mailed to the residents. So that is a courtesy. I will ask the council if that's something that we can do when it comes to the public hearing, because we didn't do it this time. So I apologize for that misprint. But it still has to come before the full council, Gigi. Okay?
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Thank you. Gregory Jacobov, 117 Northeast 88th Street. This is a question maybe to you, to the village manager, maybe also to you, Seth, as the owner. The question that I brought up before, because everyone was talking about the valet parking for so long, I think maybe the cultural issue can be also talked in more detail now. Let's say to have an art fair in the parking lot for a place which is a complete commercial building, which once upon a time was a community place because it was a sanctuary or a church, is a very big change in its nature. And therefore I wanted to know if you as a village would be interested, or if you see what's happening on Northeast 2nd Avenue in the development, also in the plans of Seth about the sanctuary. It shows like the whole connections from Biscayne on Northeast 2nd Avenue. It goes down to the design district. There is the O Cinema in Miami Shores. There is now going to be a cultural center in Little River, in the area where the Citadel is going to be. So I guess if one would want to rent the sanctuary for a weekend during Art Basel, it would probably be tens of thousands of dollars. So is that something that where you would want to involve yourself, that you would say, we would want to do something during Art Basel, we would want to have the possibility to have our youths do something there, or would you say, no, I'm okay if the owner says when it's the low season and the parking lot is available, we're going to do something there, we're going to have something when no other wedding is taking place. Would you take a more proactive state and say, no, we actually have a vision that we're going to do something while all of Miami is trying to gentrify itself and be a more cultural place, and El Portal is a part of this? Or would you say we just want to be outside of it and rather be a quiet neighborhood which is residential, but we do want this place to drink some Pinot Grigio?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. Again, as the mayor stated earlier, we haven't had those discussions with Seth and Sam yet, but we certainly plan to. Again, we're a municipality with a very limited budget, so I can't commit to activities and things like that that will cost the village, because there are expenses that come with that. However, we will work with Seth and Sam to see.
So you wouldn't want to put the decision that you pass something which is for the benefit of a commercial endeavor as a quid pro quo in order to get something back as the community?
I think we would have to talk with them offline. That's something we probably wouldn't want to commit to until we can talk with Seth and Sam and see what ways we can partner with the owners and the community to bring activity or some kind of presence.
Thank you, Gregory. Okay. That concludes our public discussion. Anybody else before I conclude it and move on to the first agenda item? Okay. We have two agenda items. We have a resolution and an ordinance. Do we have the representatives for the garage conversion? Yes, we do. Okay. At this time, okay, we're going to go to page 2. If I can have the attorney please read the resolution into the record?
Resolution 2018-14, a resolution of the Village Council of El Portal, Florida, authorizing the approval of the variance for garage conversion as requested by Cheryl Maren Edwards Turner, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. This is a resolution that came before the Planning and Zoning Committee, and I believe it did pass 3-1. We had a member, I think, that might have been out. But at this time, if the residents are here and would like to say anything, and if the audience has any questions, this would be the time. So, did you want to come up, Ms. Maria? Juan? Okay. Council, any questions on this resolution? Councilperson Dre, you got it. Okay. So this is a garage conversion for a home on the west side. Before I ask for a motion for the resolution, I'll close for public discussion. Does anybody have any comments on Resolution 2018-14?
Dr. Ward, 415 Northwest. Dr. Ward, 415 Northwest 88th Terrace. Is this one easy?
I'm sorry?
Is this an easy one?
Yes.
This is a very easy one?
I can't say that about the next one, though.
Oh.
Yes.
Because a lot of us want our garages enclosed, especially since that bad storm came. Is this an easy one?
Well, not many garage conversions has passed in my time, but...
That's right. Okay. You know where I'm going. Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Did you want to, any other public comments?
Why do you have a resident comment?
Okay, I'm gonna, Ms. Edwards, before I, since you are the homeowner asking for this, how about you give a little explanation to the residents, please? Thank you.
My name is Cheryl Marion Edwards Turner, 485 Northwest 88th Street. I've been a resident of El Portal for, almost 41 years. And it actually started out as a man cave. My husband, just would go there when he was living. And what happens is now, I've seen my friends, I'll be 68 this year, and I've seen my friends not having been able to be taken care of. And so I wanted my garage to be converted so that if something, if something probably will happen to me, but I want to be near my family so my children can be there to take care of me. So that's why I'm asking for the garage conversion.
Yes, Juan, you can come up now. Thank you.
Good evening, all. Just wanted to mention real quick that even though Chapter 5, I believe, is the one that requires to go through this board for garage conversions, the code also says that secondary units are allowed in Z3. So, we also need to consider that in terms of affordability in Miami-Dade, El Portal is one of the most progressive codes, allowing for this secondary unit or additional square footage to happen within the property. So just wanted the council to understand that concept, and eventually, if more of these come up, we should consider a revision of the code, an amendment to the code, if that's what is sought.
Yeah, and also for clarity, this garage is detached from the house. I think it's important to note, it's not a garage that's attached to the home.
Yes.
It's right behind, so it already looks like a in-law quarter unit, for lack of a better word, right? So I know that was the primary reason that I voted yes during P&Z, and I think it's important to note. So it's not a garage next to, attached to the house, it's like right behind the setback, right?
It's a secondary building.
It's a
yes.
secondary bill, exactly. Okay, any questions?
Just had a quick question. I was one of the members who wasn't present at the PNC meeting. So when we say personal living quarters, being a separate home, what are we saying? Are we including a bathroom in there or kitchen? Just give us a little bit more specifics. It seems, yeah. No kitchen?
Because Delaware Code cannot have a second, so it's only a bathroom.
Just a bathroom?
That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for clarity. Any other questions for clarity from the council to Juan or the residents? Okay, hearing none, thank you. I'll close the public comments and open it up back to the council. Is there a motion for resolution 2018-14? Is there a motion, not a resolution, I apologize. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2018-14? Is there no resolution for 2018-14? Excuse me, is there a motion to approve resolution 2018-14? Sorry, I keep reading.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve resolution 2018-14. Is there a second? I will second it. Any discussion before I ask for roll call? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Roll call, Councilperson Dreher.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
Yes.
Councilperson Mathis.
No.
Vice Mayor Nickerson's not here. Mayor Cubillos.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1.
Okay. Don't make us look bad, Ms. Edwards. Okay. That is not one that passes very often here. Okay. So with that said, next on the agenda, we have an ordinance. I'm going to ask the council, I'm going to ask the attorney to read the ordinance into the record first.
Ordinance 2018-4, an ordinance of the Village of El Portal, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 3, Alcoholic Beverages, Section 3-1, Hours of Sale, providing for updated hours of sale, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflicts, repealer, severability, codification, and effective date.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask Juan to go ahead and go a little further into the order, just an explanation as to where our code currently stands and a recommendation that I believe you all put in, and it's open up for discussion for the public as well as the council.
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. So for the record, what we're trying to do here is really clean up the code, which had some language that was misguiding. What we're trying to do is to provide regular hours of operation for alcohol sales, which were, in our reading of the current language of the code, were intended, but were unfortunately not written clearly. So in order to clean them up, we've gone a little bit further and looked at what your neighbors to the north and the neighbors to the south are doing, that City of Miami and Miami Shores, and we've come up with hours that we believe can work for at this time for the sanctuary, as well as other applications that may come in the future. But this is the first attempt, or the first time that we look at cleaning up part of this code that for both clarity and for the ability for applicants to understand what it is that they're investing in.
Let's go over I think there's an error on the ordinance as well, but let's go over what for sake of the residents right here, what the code actually says as opposed to what your recommendations are to the council.
So currently, the code says that it shall be unlawful for the holder of a license to basically serve alcohol between the hours of 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. And on Sundays from 12 noon to 2 a.m., which basically renders the day totally unavailable for sale of alcohol. It makes this a dry village for all intents and purposes. So what we're trying to do here is to change that from 7 a.m. To 1 a.m., right? There was a typo in the...
12. Right.
Well, it depends on how we look at it, but it was at 12 that the final
Right,
hours?
it was supposed to be 12 a.m. instead of 2 a.m.
Sorry, so it was 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
to 12 a.m.
So the recommended change that you all are recommending per analyzing the area is Monday through Saturday between the hours of 7 a.m. to midnight?
Yes, that would compare to Miami Shores, which unlike the city of Miami, which is more, it allows for longer hours.
And Sundays from noon to midnight?
Yes, that's correct.
There's a typo on that, but I think you all know that already. Okay. Now,
Now, for the record and clarity, a license still requires a special exception as per the code. So you're not basically opening up the sale of alcohol to any and all that want to do so. You still have to go through a certain process, and you have to still bring it up to the council.
and this would be applicable to two areas of our zoning, which would be the Northeast Second and the Little Farm.
Z4 and Z5, both as a special exception.
Especially. Any questions for Juan before we open up for public discussion? Or to the attorney? And just for more clarity to the residents, this came before us at the planning and zoning meeting in lieu of the potential future change to the Radar Church. And it did pass planning and zoning, but only to have further discussion as a council. Because just to reiterate, this is where we can have discussions together to hear where we are all at on certain issues. And then obviously together hear all of you get your input on all of this. Ordinance must go through 2 readings. This may be considered a first reading if that's how the council wants to take it. We could always defer this to July, but I think it's important more than anything to really hear where you all are coming from. So if the council doesn't have any questions at the moment, I'll open it up for public discussions. Any comments from the council? Do we want to hear the residents? Okay, so let me close the council meeting. I want to open up for public comments, please. Just state your name and address for the record.
Why are these microphones so far?
Liliana Pico, 181 Northwest 87th Street.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the hours that are proposing?
Yes.
From 7 a.m.?
Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to midnight, and Sunday from noon to midnight.
Sunday from noon to midnight. Okay.
And then Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to midnight.
Okay. Isn't that too early, 7 a.m.?
Sunday brunch.
Hair the dog.
Adam Old, 140 Northeast 86th Street. I think there's only one person with a liquor license, one business with a liquor license now. It's Big Daddy's. They stay open until 2 o'clock illegally right now. Would this like limit their hours?
No, actually, I don't know if I would say illegally, but we had asked at the planning and zone meeting for the attorney to look, and I don't think we have the answer yet, because I believe they do have a special exception that we need to find somewhere here in our records. Because they don't just, they've been in existence for there used to be a club there, way before my time. So, if there is not, then, yeah. But that is, we all talked about this in planning and zoning.
I think it's clear this is a typo in the code, right? It should be lawful, not unlawful, right? So you're fixing a typo, but...
And the hourly rate.
But if you fix the hours, that affects them. So I would think they would be here and noticed, right? Or no, I don't know.
No, this is, preliminary, we have a conversation with them, that's why this is more of a discussion, but we talked exactly about our concern about this at P&Z with regards to, just like when the covenant was brought up to us, that was from 40 years ago, unfortunately, we don't have, I'd have to go to storage, and we don't have everything scanned here as far as to be able to find that, but there's a few things that I've been looking for as far as historical information, and that's one of them. I'm actually looking right now for the certification of our sanctuary status. So, there's things that we need to, I'd like to find, but definitely that's one that this is not going to completely pass without there being a proper conversation with the attorney to the Big Daddies.
Yeah, I'm not Big Daddies, but I think if you're going to pass an ordinance that solely affects them, then you'd probably want to notice them. But also, I don't agree that we need this change in hours. I like the hours the way they are, 2 a.m. to 7 a.m.
To make it lawful from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m.?
Oh, it already is lawful from 2 a.m. to 7
No,
a.m.
I know, so you want to keep it the way it is?
Or just at least keep it 7 to 2. If there's a bar here, it should stay open until 2. Why not?
I agree.
Oh, but that's not what it says currently. That's not what it says currently.
No, currently it exists that it's only legal to sell alcohol from 2 a.m. until 7 a.m.
Correct, yeah.
Which is fine if you guys want to carve out that niche, but...
7 a.m. to 2 a.m. is cool.
So it needs to be switched.
So you're saying 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Sunday?
It's your choice.
You know, a lot of alcohol on Sunday morning.
I'm cool with it.
So just to clarify, what it says in the code today is that it's unlawful from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m.
This is all day.
Right? So from 7 a.m. when the sun rises to 2 a.m. it's unlawful to sell
That's what
alcohol.
we said.
It means that you can only sell alcohol from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m.
That's why it's crossing out.
That's why it's
That's crossing out.
Which renders pretty much any other business than a nightclub, unable to open in El Portal.
This doesn't make sense.
It should be Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 2 a.m.
If I may, Madam Mayor, Brian Adler, Office of Bills in Sunburg, 1450 Brickell Avenue. And I've reviewed the alcohol ordinances that are in place in Aventura, Miami Shores, City of Miami, unincorporated Dade County. And 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. is a common time frame. For Sundays, many of them also have 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 10 a.m. What I'm going to ask is if you would consider a 10 a.m. on Sunday, because a restaurant, as someone mentioned, mimosas, breakfast, brunches. Sundays are often a brunch day, and brunches often start at 10 or 11 a.m., and that would actually preclude the service of mimosas at 10 a.m. So I'm not asking if you would go to 7 a.m., but the Shores actually has 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. in their restaurants. The county has 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. I think City of Miami has 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. I think Aventura has 8 a.m. So going to 10 a.m. would be a compromise. It would bring in the ability for the brunches and mimosas at the brunches on Sundays, and it would not be extending it all the way down to 7 a.m. So just something for consideration, if you would, Madam Mayor. And also, the time frame until 12 a.m., just so you know, the Miami Shores has 2 zoning districts. One's a B1, and two commercial zoning districts, the B1 and the B2. Their B1 is until 12 a.m. Their B2 is actually until 1 a.m. So if you're looking for your Main Street area, that is something that you can consider, because given it's going to flow into the shores, and what you want to do is try and ensure the viability of your new Main Street and for competition. So if you wanted to consider 1 a.m., I know that it's 12 a.m. I think we're looking for 12 a.m., but I just say, as a suggestion, I think 1 a.m. would match the shores, and that's going to be, you want to make sure that there's good competition for the establishments. Thank you.
Any other residents on this? Please, this is the time to come up. Yeah, we do that.
Gregory Jacobo, 170 Northeast 88th Street. When you talk about, Main Street is Northeast 2nd Avenue.
17 Northeast 88.
From the border of Miami Shores until the bridge. So is there any other proposal that any other business is going to be opening in that purple zone except for the sanctuary? Like, is that part of the plan? That there's going to be more shops except for the sanctuary?
Excuse me. Hello? Can you sign in for me, please? Thank you.
No, I'm going to keep for public discussion, please. Any other public comments with regards to this alcohol ordinance?
I think the issue of the service of alcoholic beverages extends more than 2nd Avenue. It goes into the little farm area where they're going to be developing commercial spaces and restaurants and maybe bars down the road. And I think also the sanctuary is going to be having restaurants and nightlife, not to mention their events. So that's why I think that I agree that the expanded hours, I think 10 a.m. on Sunday to allow for brunch libations, 10 a.m. maybe to 12 on Sunday, and then the 7 a.m. till 1 or 2 a.m. We have to be consistent with Miami Shores, so whatever hours they offer, I think we should offer the same thing.
Thank you, Gigi. Any other public comments on this ordinance?
Gigi, this is a question to you. Why should it be consistent? Like, do we have an interest to make Miami Shore, to make El Portal, like make this Main Street popular for what? Can you maybe explain it to me?
Just for purposes, you address the council and we answer you.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay.
No, I don't know if there's an interest because it increases the value of our real estate, or is it? I would like to know what the interest is. Like, obviously, it's good to have places where we can buy things and professional places close to home, and also maybe the possibility to rent a place where one can conduct business. But is there a general interest to do the same things as the villages right and left to us in order to have a business zone?
Yeah, and we're here, and that's why we're here. We're here to hear what the residents want. So, any other public comments on this ordinance?
Cheryl Turner, 485 Northwest 88th Street. It's because of competition. If we're going to open in the sanctuary an events place, then you would want to be able to get events to come into that particular place, because Miami Shores has, they generate a whole lot of events, and they make a lot of money in one. They may have 3 events in one day. So if we're having something like the sanctuary that has events, then that place needs to generate funds also. So, and we have to look at it as our tax base also. So it's for competition. You want to bring business into Miami Shores. Into El Portal. from Miami Shores and from other places also.
The 12 to 12.
Any other public comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Gregory Jacob of 117 Northeast 88th Street. From my address, our property is right, the first building that's still the yellow zone. That is still the yellow zone. So we have now next to us a building that belonged to Charlie, but he sold it. Now it says coming soon, Sad Hannah, which is I think some esoteric business which chimes in front of our window. So they have a commercial real estate. And then on the other side there's going to be the sanctuary. For us nothing changes as for our possibility to do any business, except for that next to us there's going to be a business area. So I don't see what, my personal interest, if I want to sell the real estate, it's still going to be, now it's going to be real estate that's closer to a commercial area, but I can't sell my real estate as something where I can offer someone to have a kindergarten there or an art school, because my real estate is still yellow. So the strip on Northeast 2nd Avenue is not an improvement for me. I didn't get anything for the fact that everyone there can be competitive and make more business. I just have the noise. When Sad Anna had a small event in the backyard, there were a lot of cars there because the 4 or 5 parking spaces in front of it didn't suffice for their event, so they parked on the grass that I maintain in front of my building, which belongs to the village, but still I have to take care of it. And that's going to be happening more and more now, so there's no benefit for me, and the question of being competitive doesn't arise for me as someone who is adjacent to the purple zone in the yellow zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Adam?
So maybe I can address that, because that zone has always been different than the yellow zone that you live in now. It's been residential office since 1970. So there's always been allowed uses there that are different than are allowed throughout the rest of the village. In 2013, there was a big community-wide charrette with hundreds of neighbors came out. Planners stayed in this room for a week, drew designs on the wall, and people came and marked the map, and there was a big back and forth. Out of that charrette came the clear indication that people wanted more of a main street on 2nd. So that's why Juan has taken that idea, put it into the changes in code that were passed, I think, unanimously by the council last year. So there is an advantage to you. The first advantage is that you'll have easy access to whatever businesses come there. So if there's a coffee shop across the street, which Seth proposed, you will have a coffee shop across the street. For me, I live in a similar situation to you, right on 86th. I'm very happy to have a coffee shop right next to my house. But the main thing is the city runs on taxes, and the RO district is not bringing in a lot of taxes right now. If it can actually become what's zoned, if, for example, a sewer comes in someday, maybe, and restaurants can come and it can become a real main street, then that can give the city the operating revenue to, fix the potholes on the street and trim the trees and do all the services, like pay the police more. So those are the types of things that the city can offer in exchange for, what I think is actually a bonus to us. But that's all I had to say. If my former comment was confusing, I just would suggest changing the word unlawful to lawful in the text, and maybe changing it to 10 a.m. instead of noon on Sundays.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Any other public comments? Hearing none? Okay, I'm going to open it up for council to perhaps answer any questions, but thanks for the clarity, Adam Oaks. I was going to end on that, as far as, these decisions are really tough, but at the end of the day, it really is going to provide for the sustainability of the village, is to ensure that we do things, but such as these. However, we're being mindful and conscious of your needs and of your concerns, because that's also our job. But at the same time, we do have to, we do know the budget that we have, and we do know that we need more, we need to pay our police officers more, we do need to fix the potholes, you know, we want to be able to fix our streets, we want to be able to put, you know, septic to sewer, but all of these things comes at a cost. And the only way that we can provide better services and be more consistent with our services if there's more revenue coming in. But it doesn't mean that we're just going to accept anything and everyone, which is why we've been mindful, and we're here again, and we postponed the public hearing, because we want to be sure that while, yes, we need the revenue, we want to take into consideration what all your needs and thoughts, and I mean, you live right there, and we completely understand that. And we did have a charrette, and I encourage you to go on the website. It's on the website. And like you asked before about the purple and the yellow, when we amended or agreed or voted on the comp plan last year, the comp plan was put together based on the charrette. And the charrette was something that happened over weeks of time, and it was the input of a lot of shareholders and stakeholders from the community, from business to residents and to elected and the administration. We were all here sort of like on pencils. So I'm sure it's not what everybody would love, but I think it was a pretty good vision as to where we thought Northeast Second can go. But also keep in mind that everything we pass here, there's still other contingencies. Like, for example, it was said earlier, if they're going to open up a restaurant, they're still going to have to come to us. So we're still going to put it out there. This is not the end all, but this is just the beginning. But one of the reasons that we did postpone it is because how you start your venture is how it's going to be. So it's necessary that we started clear, precise, and we all were on the same page, from the proper language, from the proper usage, to the hours. I mean, all that is necessary, and we by ourselves don't make that decision. We hopefully make it together based on your input as well. So, so we've taken all the input. I know I've taken a lot of notes, and on that, does anybody have any questions from the council?
I have a quick comment. If I'm not mistaken, the alcohol, what we're proposing, we also considered our noise ordinance, which is why it's midnight, not 1 o'clock in the morning. Is that correct, Juan? That's what I have in my notes.
The noise ordinance is a different ordinance that regulates the ability, for instance, to have concerts.
Right.
And I can
I
pull
have
it up.
something written in my notes from our last meeting that's 1 o'clock.
So the purpose of the noise ordinance is to control excessive noise and nuisance, thereby created in such a manner as to cause the least hardship or offense to the greater number of people. That's the purpose. The operation, so the playing of music by bands, orchestras, musicians, etc. Sorry, I'm skimming through so I don't have to read it, the whole
It's
thing.
okay, I was just wondering what I had written down.
The operation, so that cannot be between the hours of 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. and then Sunday through Thursday between the hours of 12 a.m. and 8 a.m.
There's no
That's for
1 o'clock.
Friday to Saturday.
Okay.
So that's a different
So I
ordinance
don't know,
that also
I don't know why I had
controls.
1 o'clock listed here, circled, so I don't know if maybe something from my shores.
And it continues, and you can read on, it's on chapter 13-2, but it talks about, not being able to hear the nuisance 100 feet away from the actual building.
Thank you.
And that is not changing, by the way.
Okay, any other questions from the council with regard, yes?
So just reading over this has nothing to do with the hours, right? But I'm just reading over the verbiage of what we got over the resolution. So to what Adam stated here, we see that it says on page 1, currently prohibits the sale of all the services, and it goes on to state 12 noon to 2 a.m. So my first question is, do we need to first make sure we remove that prohibits to say it is lawful, like it's being recommended by one of our residents, that would be the first question. And then going on the third page here, there's on section 3.1, hours of sale, which states from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I just want to make sure we have that consistency before we approve this. And my other piece is, since one mentioned that there's the business area on the C4, C5 areas, should we need to be explicit in the resolution to state a C4, this applies to a C4, C5 area? So that's what I want to get to, and hopefully we could get some answers on that respect from the attorney.
The only thing I was going to say was, when it comes to the zones in our village, there are things that are by right and by warrant. So Z4 and Z5, this would only be applicable. Because Z3, which is predominantly all residential, there's no way. If you look at actual code, there's a whole a graph. You can't. But keep in mind, I'm not here prepared to pass that exact ordinance. We've got to be consistent with the language, of course. And more importantly, the hours that was proposed may not be the hours that we agree on. So I think that hands down, this is not like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. We have to agree on the hours and the days, and based on what we think would be best from what we've heard.
Councilman Drea, the first answer to your question, that's the whereas clause. The whereas clause is only articulating what's currently in the code. The operative sections that actually amends the code are the sections that are on the second page, the 3.1. Now, in terms of the way the first reading is designed, the hours could be whatever hours are proposed. But to the extent that there's going to be a passage of first reading, that can be done through an amendment. So to the extent that you've heard public input, would suggest that maybe it should be from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m., Monday through Sunday. You could just simply propose to pass the proposed ordinance on first reading with that amendment, and it'll come back for the second reading, and even at the second reading, it'll still be amended. So it's just a pleasure what the council wants to do.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. I'm not stating anything during the hours. First, my first concern is the consistency in the wording, right? So we have unlawful, right? If you're stating that section chapter 3 is the one that we're moving forward, it says unlawful. So can we first start with that piece, unlawful? And should we change that to being lawful? Is that the first that we see here?
Yeah, that's the whereas clause. That's the clause that just tells you what the code currently says.
I'm looking at section 2 here on this page here. It says page 2 out of 3. It says section chapter 3, alcoholic beverages.
Go ahead. Basically what he's saying is, it kind of confuses people when you say it's unlawful and then you put the hours. So what he's basically saying is just put lawful and just put the hours instead of saying law. People who aren't of legal mindset, they read it.
But he's not looking at that page. He's looking at the whereas. He's looking at page 2. He's looking at whereas chapter 3, alcoholic beverage, section 3.1.
He knows what I'm talking about. This is the whereas, where it's being ratified, but it's saying it's unlawful.
Right, basically, if I understand what you're saying, it's easier for the layperson to read it by simply saying it's lawful in order to sell alcohol. It makes it clearer to the average person, instead of reading it in the negative. So that could be an amendment. You just simply are proposed to amend the ordinance as proposed to have it read that it shall be lawful to sell alcohol between the hours of 7 a.m. to 2 a.m.
I'm not stating on the hours. Please, that's not the hours that I'm getting here. I just want to make sure that he reads accordingly, right?
It's just an example.
Yeah, it's just, exactly. So, but I just want to be clear. So that, I would like to bring that first amendment, right, to just state, it should be lawful for the holder.
So what would it be in addition to that?
In addition to that, it would be specifically based on the wording that I hear from our Proservia person here. We say C4 and C5 zonings. And based on the Miami Shores Muni Code, that's specifically stated. Actually, I pulled it up. here I have a screen copy, and it actually states to that specific on the business area.
Correct, and the zoning actually does say that it's only in Z4 and Z5, and only by special exception. So again, there's, codes refer to each other, or articles within a code refer to each other, and in this case, you have to go to your zone, because it's a form-based code, go to your zone to understand whether or not that use is allowed within the zone. So this just states hours for sale, which is a standalone thing, and then the zones will define whether or not that use is permitted in that zone, which is in a different chapter.
In a different chapter.
So the uses are in a different place.
All right.
Otherwise, we would be repeating things, so, every article would be repeating the same thing.
All right, makes sense then. So that would be my amendment, just, thanks for that input, just on the lawful piece.
Any other comments from the council before I, Okay, what I'm going to actually propose is because, in terms of clarity, I would like to see the council, from what we've heard this evening, maybe make some recommendations. I'd like to see the ordinance with the recommendations from like how it looks existing, slashed out what the recommendation is, so that we can, what we're looking at is what it was and what it could be. And I feel more comfortable passing something like that as opposed to just passing something that's sort of up in the air right now. I understand that there's language that has been on the code for a long time, and I understand that we want to change it, we want to amend that, but I would like to see it in a format where we're all on the same page, and I don't think that none of us are. So I think it's important that when we receive the ordinance for the July council meeting, that it states, and then, like you've done it in the past when we've done this, there's a paragraph, and then you have it crossed out, and then what the amended language is going to be. So what we're looking at, they're looking at, and we're all on the same page. I am not comfortable voting at all on this tonight, whether it's 10 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I'm more comfortable seeing what it was and what we propose.
A red line.
So you're proposing a deferral of the item?
Yes, I mean, I would prefer deferral, but I think we need to give, direction to the attorney and to the planner as far as, based on what we heard, what our recommendations would be. Councilperson Dre has made a recommendation to please change that word to lawful. We have one. So I think that they need to hear recommendations from us based on what we heard, and then come back to us with an ordinance that has the red lines on what was and what we are proposing to change, so that there's a little bit more, clarity. Yes. Okay, so at this time, we have one amendment. Is there anything else? As we've heard from the residents this evening, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Councilperson Roman is a little concerned because our noise ordinance is 11, which is different than the noise ordinance, is more an enforcement from the police than drinking, but drinking can cause noise. Brunch on Sunday, are we going to do 12 o'clock, or are we going to do 10 o'clock? The brunch in Miami Shores opens up at 11:30. So that's more of the conversation that I'd like to see happen, and then maybe give some recommendations, and then I'd like to receive the ordinance in sufficient time to be able to read it and digest it and share it with my neighbors if I need to. I cannot receive the ordinance 4 days before the council meeting. That's not going to work for me. So if we can have that dialogue and give them some direction, and then we can take it from there. Good? Okay, any recommendations from the council to Juan, who's at the podium, or our attorney? Right now, the proposed hours are 7 a.m. to 2 a.m., Monday through Saturday. I've heard some changes anywhere from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m., or I've heard leave it like that, or I've heard 10 o'clock. So at this time, this is our time to sort of digest that and give some introduction.
Just a correction, we were discussing 7 a.m. to 12.
12, sorry, I have 2. Oh, because, well, it says 2 here, but okay. So, I'm of the mindset 7 a.m. is a little early, and I'm in the mindset that Sunday could be a little earlier. I somewhat think 2 o'clock is a little too late, but I'm only one person, so I really need to hear where we are all at with this. I understand where Miami Shores does. I understand what City of Miami does, but I also remember at the Planning and Zoning meeting when we said that, certain residents their hair went up because they were like, well, we're not Miami Shores and we're not the city of Miami. We are the village of El Portal and we're quite small, and we have to keep in mind that if we don't follow the noise ordinance, that's going to get calls into the police department, and then that's going to have to, cause, so all that we have to just be mindful of.
So how's 9 a.m. versus 7? I think 10 is good for me, but I'm thinking that might be a little too late for some.
So a 9 a.m. to midnight, a 9 a.m. to 1, a 9 a.m., or do you all, some of you like the hours the way they are?
I like 9 to 2.
9 a.m. to 2, there's a proposal from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m., okay? Monday through Friday, I'm assuming, Monday to Saturday.
To 2 a.m. or to 12 a.m.?
2 a.m.
There's 2? I'm inclined to say 12 or 1, but
I'm saying 9 to 12 a.m.
I think it's important when we see this and it's redlined, then we can say, no, it can be, we're going to hear more discussion and it may change from 2 to 1 to 12, or back to 1, or who knows. Okay, right now, there's an amendment of 9 a.m. to 2 a.m., Monday through Saturday. That's a recommendation. And then the second one will be Sunday. Right now, the ordinance has, or proposed from them has noon to 12 a.m.
Are we recommending this?
We're making recommendations. I'd like them to bring back the ordinance where it is what it was, what we're recommending, so it's redlined and we see it and we can pass it, we can have more of a dialogue.
I thought we were taking a vote, that's why I was asking. I thought we were.
My only concern, my only concern from a...
But what you're essentially asking for is several different proposed ordinances. That's why you workshop the ordinance with the input and then make an amendment based upon motion. So what you're going to get back would be ordinance A, which says 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Saturday, Sunday 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. Ordinance B, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then you can get ordinance C that says, just about every combination of hours.
Well, but I don't think I'm hearing that today. I think the council has not really said anything like that. I think I have just one person, Councilperson Dre, that said change one word, and I think I just heard a change from Monday through Saturday, which is 9 a.m. The council is, Councilperson Matheson said it.
You all haven't finished discussing it. So what I'm suggesting is that the path you're heading down,
I'll make a motion.
it's just simply to tell me to come back with different proposed ordinances with different hours based upon the research done by Juan and based upon what Miami Shores does and what we would recommend based upon the discussion, which is basically 3 alternative ordinances.
And also based on what we heard this evening. So, Councilperson Matheson, you said you wanted to what?
I said I'll make a motion.
Okay, what motion is?
I will motion for the amendment to change the flow of the language so it can read, that a layperson can read, not the unlawfulness. And I would recommend 10 a.m. to 2 a.m.
10 a.m. to 2.
Monday through Saturday. And then Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1.
So there's a motion to amend the term to make it a lay term so a layperson can read it as opposed to be legal jargon. And a Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2, and a Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1.
That's my motion.
May I?
There's a motion. Do I have a second? If not, the motion dies.
You can second with discussion.
It's a second, and it's going to be discussion where it passes. Is there a second to Councilperson Mathis' motion? I'll second the motion, just for purposes of discussion.
Just a quick note, what I would ask the council to consider is that this is not an ordinance that will affect a faraway commercial district. These properties on 2nd Avenue abut residential properties. So the hours of operation, or I guess the hours of alcohol sale, even though they're not prone for good commercial enterprise right now, as they are written in the code. These extended hours or these very early hours, I would request that, I would urge you to consider how close these operations will be. And by the way, the sanctuary has a decent amount of parking lot buffering. Some other properties don't. So some of the properties that will abut single-family residences will be 20 feet, 30 feet away.
So you're saying it's too early?
I'm just telling you the reality of the map. Some of the properties that you will be putting these hours for will be very, very close. I don't think the sanctuary is going to be an issue because of the parking situation, which is actually an advantage in this case, and the potential wall fence. But the rest of the properties that are on Z4 are going to be affected, which goes back to what the attorney was saying. Maybe what you want us to do is to look at options, and maybe propose two options. I don't want to leave it open-ended because.
Well, and please do not take this the wrong way, but that is really what I thought I was getting tonight.
Yeah.
I was under the impression when we passed the planning and zoning, and which I said it at the conference call, so something I did not say, that we would be getting this. So
Yes.
I was under the impression that I would be able to have choices that I can share with the residents and we didn't get that. Which is why I had prefaced it by saying I feel comfortable not even voting on tonight, which I hope we don't vote on this tonight. So, because I want the options, I want to be able to, and I want the options with sufficient time to be able to tell my neighbors, hey, what do you all think, So I would be more comfortable with options based on research on exactly what you just said, take all those factors into consideration, because if we think of where that restaurant may go, the person that lives directly to the north-south has no buffer. And they're right there. So, all those things have to be taken into consideration with regards to, being able to, and we can't, and also, we also have to keep in mind that when we're doing this, we can't just think of the sanctuary, right? We have a potential development that's going to happen in the little farm. So, there's things to think about that. It's not just cookie cutter. There is a motion, we will vote on it, but I would like to see I'd like to see options. That is what we had asked for at the P&Z meeting.
We brought those options to the P&Z meeting. We brought the comparisons with Miami
No,
Shores.
comparisons were brought, and then, because we wanted to know what our neighboring cities, so we left knowing what City Miami hours are, and we left knowing the Miami Shores hours. What we asked for was, hey, based on this analysis of what our surrounding cities have, we want our options. Give us a couple of options that we can present to our residents. That is what we left with the P&Z. And correct me if I'm wrong.
I thought we decided.
No, we did not decide at the P&Z. I'd have to look at I think it was recorded.
No, I think my understanding was that you wanted us to fill in the blank.
You wanted to fill in the blank with some ideas and then come back with us with those ideas. Again, that is, I don't know what you all remember, but that's what I remember. But either way, we still need to see what the options are based on just everything.
Our proposal was to extend the B1 district of Shores, which is 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. That was what I understood, and I don't know if we can bring other options. But what I understood was that you wanted us to fill in the blank. We decided that it was best to bring down the hours of operation, the hours of alcohol sale from the Shores instead of bringing them from City of Miami. We also discussed with the attorney that it was the best solution would be that which ties with your neighbors. So we went with the most restrictive in part because Miami Shores has the same condition, which has commercial property that abuts single-family residences. So, that's what we decided. But if you want us to look at it further, we can.
So from what I'm understanding, based on your analysis, you're recommending 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. or 12?
12.
To 12, Monday through Saturday. And you're recommending Sunday, midnight to, what do you call it? Midnight to noon to midnight.
But
that is the recommendation that you all, based on looking at everything.
And having heard the attorney for the sanctuary, I would not be, I don't think that it would be a a major issue if we change the the noon on Sunday to 10. That doesn't seem, those 2 hours don't seem like a nuisance time. It seems at the time that I'm mowing my lawn, so if somebody's having a beer, it's not a big deal for me. But that's just-
Noise ordinance is 11. Councilperson Mathis?
Miami Shores has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 variations with regards to their whole alcohol issue. They have grocery store, they have package stores, they have the country club, they have restaurants with craft beers and cafes, and then that's B1, and then they have restaurants with wine and craft beers, that's B2, and then they have deliveries and commercial suppliers. So should we tailor it towards that? So each individual category is specified, because there's varying times with regards to all of them.
Right, that's, Councilman Mathis, that's what I believe Paul was alluding to. We looked at what they had, they have different hours in different districts.
Right, so you came up with one general one that
Right,
could,
based
okay.
upon what the sanctuary project is about, its proximity to the residential, and what would work in conjunction with the developer had recommended also, especially for the Sunday brunch. We didn't have an issue with tweaking it to 10 a.m. on Sunday.
Yes, and in part, I mean, if I may answer, in part is because, and it's not to pat ourselves in the back, but in part is because we have a much tighter, better code. They have all these uses, we have general commercial, which, you know, if their grocery stores are from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m., well, that doesn't make much difference from a restaurant. So having a difference of alcohol sales at a grocery store or restaurant doesn't really make a difference to us.
They'll start at 7 a.m.
Yeah, 7 a.m. So pretty much grocery stores are the same as package stores, which are pretty much the same as B2 restaurants and wine. So yes, they do have 7, but they're pretty much the same hours. So if you want us to complicate the code, I won't be happy about it, but I'll do it.
But wouldn't also this be a good time to, if we cannot find where Big Daddy's is grandfathered in? I mean, Big Daddy's is here, and they have been. Wouldn't this not be a good time perhaps to have them identified as that on the code? So, I mean, I'm just thinking right now because, I mean, that is a point that not only did a member of the audience bring up tonight, but we actually discussed it at P&Z meeting about Big Daddies. So if we cannot find what we think they may have as special exception or whatever it was called way back then, you know, I think that this might be a good time to put it in there. I mean, I don't think Big Daddies is going anywhere.
And we could also make a differentiation between Z5 and Z4, because they are on the other side of Biscayne and they are in totally different zoning category. Yes, we could do that. We could make a differentiation for Z5. Maybe the Z5 hours are much more, well, I wouldn't say that. But we could consider a different option for Z5.
Sherwood Bistro, what is that City of Miami?
Yes.
What time is there? I'm just curious because I'm assuming right from that, isn't that where the City Hall food hall is going to be?
No, that would be the Citadel.
The Citadel? That's where they're opening up a big food hall, what have you. Is there going to be alcohol in there as well?
I would assume that they would apply for a...
That's City of Miami, right?
Yes.
So they're open till when?
3.
To 3?
7 to 3, and then Sundays 12 to 3.
There is a motion. So, there is a, before we go on to further discussion, there is a motion, we have to vote on it. The motion is by Councilperson Mathis, it's 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Saturday, and 11 a.m. to midnight on Sunday. Am I correct?
1.
1 a.m. I keep going to that midnight, okay. 1 a.m. Madam Clerk, can I get roll call?
And change the word law.
And change the word to lawful. Madam Clerk, can I get roll call?
Roll call. Councilperson Dreyer.
Yes.
Councilperson Roman.
No.
Councilperson Mathis.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson absent. Mayor Cubillos.
No. Okay, so from even what we have further discussed, I am more inclined to have options. I think the one thing that the council can agree on tonight is the changing of the word. Other than that, I think that we need to hear options. I mean, again, we have big daddies. There's nothing's going to happen in the next 30 days. So this is a decision that when Miami Shores did, if we want to keep talking about Miami Shores, they didn't do it in one meeting. So with that said, I have no intentions of doing it in one meeting, or would I recommend to do it in 2. So I think that we need to be presented with options. I think we need to take a look at all the variables, because while we want to be restrictive, lenient, whatever the word is, we also don't want our business, if there's going to be a restaurant here, we don't want it to fail. So we have to be mindful of everything. So I understand being open to 2 o'clock. I understand wanting to close at 12. So we sort of really need to, I think you all need to really think about that, because with food hall opening, you have Sherwood Bistro, but then you have the residents that abut it. So I think that there's too many variables for us to just throw out at hours. I would feel most comfortable of having some options.
There's a difference with the location.
Yeah, they don't have any.
There's no
residents, I know.
single-family homes there. So we close early and they go party there.
They have
It's down the road.
Single-family residences. Again, yes, I can bring you options, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to give you a chart.
Yeah.
Pick from here,
Yeah,
so
that's kind of what I was looking for, is a little bit of direction. And what, in terms of the council's will, would drive the options that we bring to you? So to the extent, are you looking for options with similar municipalities that have an alcohol ordinance similar to size and scope with residential, budding, commercial? What are they doing? Are you looking for just a day, Broward? I mean, because I think we need a roadmap as to what's going to drive the options you would even consider.
I think one thing to consider is that the residents are really concerned about events. Now, alcohol drives events. So, it just, I don't know. I would be more concerned about the hours of the alcohol and that would control the events.
the noise ordinance also has
Right,
a
the
lot to do
noise,
with it.
Again, I'm going to go on the record saying that I have no need to have to pass this tonight, or, I think that we've had a healthy conversation. I think we've heard from residents. I think that we all need to go back and talk to more residents, sort of like what we did for the site plan. Really hit every person on 88th Street, and 87, see what their thoughts, and talk to residents. I mean, we have something that eventually is going to come before us. I don't feel just like feeling pressure. Again, I think the only thing that we're all on the same page is the unlawful to lawful, but other than that, I think we really need to think of all of the, there's a lot of positives, there's a lot of negatives, and there's a lot of options. And I think that instead of feeling rushed, sanctuary is not going to happen in the next 30 days. But I will say that contingent upon what we do here is completely the foundation for them and for the Little Farm. So it's really important what we do here, that we really do it mindfully and smart. That's my, again, I'm not in a hurry. We don't meet in August, but we do meet in July. I don't want the council to feel pressured. I mean, unless you all are die hard ready to make a decision, but I'm not.
No, I'm good.
I'm not.
Motion to table it, and then we'll bring back the options.
I'll let, I was going to call you Councilperson Old. I'll let Adam Old come up.
I mean, you can table it or whatever you want to do, but I just mentioned that I think every alcohol license is granted by exception, so the council can decide to negotiate with every single business that comes.
Yes.
And you can't do that if you limit the hours to like 10 p.m. or something. Like you're not allowed to give them longer hours, you can always shorten the hours, right?
Then
So
from the, yeah,
I would suggest that you consider that, especially if you're going to do the little farm and Big Daddy's, which is already there till 2 and it's not a problem, right? So, or maybe they go till 3, I don't know. But you have the power to make this decision individually every time somebody comes. So I would like give yourself more options rather than less. Like there's no reason not to, as far as I can tell. But it's also it's not that hard of a decision. You guys know what you want to do, right? Like you don't want people to stay up late on Northeast 2nd, but you don't want to limit the restaurants over here. So just split it. Take a vote.
Thank you, Adam Wold. Yes, Juan? Anything else?
No, that was a very good point.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so can I make a motion to table it? And that the, I was going to say Adam, I'm sorry, Norman and Juan would come back with some options, and if we get them in sufficient time, we'll review it in July. If not, it'll be September.
Motion to table it until
We have to have a motion to
we
table.
get the option.
Defer it to the next.
Just defer it.
Okay.
Defer it to the
Perfect.
next.
Second.
Perfect. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Okay, so let's go to, I think that's the last item on the agenda, and then we go to reports.
I'm going to refer to the
Stand by.
newsletter. Yeah,
Excuse me?
I'm deferring to the newsletter. Yeah. Reports.
Oh, we're deferring to reports?
I'm referring.
Oh. No, absolutely not. Okay, we have coming up right now, we're going right into the mayor, manager, committee, and attorney reports. Senator Campbell, are you in a hurry? Do you want to sit through the reports? Okay, you're fine. My report is so incredibly brief, you all are going to be so surprised. Let's see. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Again, really brief. The newsletter is out. Please take one with you. Besides one misprint, it's pretty informative, so I really encourage you. We've already started giving it out, so I know you love our newsletter. You do. And I encourage you to take it. It's pretty, it's got a lot of information. The nature trail, I spoke with Rob Arano, who manages the nature trail. You know, the big hiccup is that we have a new principal there who is not playing as nice, but he is playing nice. There's a meeting Friday. I'm going to try to make that meeting at 2 o'clock on Friday, as I somewhat have a pretty good relationship with the principal. They asked me to speak at the 8th grade graduation, so I did. I was their keynote speaker, and I think from that, hopefully, it'll ease over the relationships a little bit. One of the big things I want to talk about is waste management, and that's probably the gist of it. Waste management, I sent them an email on June 22nd. I sent them an email, it was a Friday. It had gone to the point where, you know, when you're here for a while, like 9 years, there's a lot to be said with the amount of complaints that come on social media and come on text messages and emails. And with text messages, I probably get more on text messages than I do email and anything else. And basically the email stated, hey, you know, we're really happy, we think you're great, but you know, in the last 3 months, the quality of service has really declined. And it's at the point where something has to be done. Hey, I feel for having to have this position, when you have to manage that many trucks, that many employees, the turnover must be incredibly high. And then you add the component of a computerized truck now that picks up your bin and knocks everything over. So the email, I put the manager in copy, the email was pretty lengthy. What derived from that, I'm probably 50% happy, the other 50% wasn't incredibly pleased. From that email, he sent out a field supervisor. Justin came out on Saturday. He actually knocked on my door. I did not speak to him. I sent to my husband. And then he sent a full report. And one thing that came out from the report, which is the 50% that I wasn't incredibly happy, was that he was out here at 7 a.m. and the pickup for all of Albertella happened within 2.5 hours. but the report is that 2/3 of the bins were out, meaning that a lot of the bins are not out at 7 a.m. So they're saying that because they're not out at 7, maybe that's why your trash didn't get picked up. So we remind the residents to put your trash bin out the night before, was the gist of the email. I have not responded to that email. The email came to me on Saturday the 23rd. I'm going to be mindful of my response, but I will respond. Because while I appreciate the field supervisor coming out, I more want to see it happening in real life as opposed to just a field supervisor that came out. And of course, the trucks are all in really great behavior, right? Because they knew the field supervisor was there. Because in his email, he says, oh, no trash cans were pushed over, and no lids were broken. Well, you know, how about the supervisor come out like surprise, like inspectors do at your business? So I haven't responded, but I wanted to say that was one of the big things, because I think that, and like I said to him, you know, unfortunately, social media is unforgiving, so therefore you really have to be in your A game, and that was with Waste Management, and that happened literally last Friday. And then I sent an email to the manager with regards to the Little Farm. You know, we harp a lot about the sanctuary because we see it as we drive often, and we don't all see the Little Farm that often, but it looks pretty disheveled and dilapidated. I understand that maybe they don't have what they need to right now, but they really they need to be cited. Something needs to happen. So I had a conversation with the manager about that with regards to, you know, we drive all of you crazy about your roofs, about your fences, about the bars, or whatever the case may be, your bin being out for 24 hours after your trash got picked up. So we need to be holding them accountable as far as what they're doing as well, as much as the sanctuary. What's the other one? There's a couple of meetings that we attended. I attended with the manager. She might talk about it more in detail. The one thing I wanted to touch on a little bit was I went to the Florida League of Cities meeting for a legislative update, and the really big thing is Amendment 1 that's coming up in the November ballot. I really encourage you all, if you are unsure of what that is and the impact it's going to have in the village, really come see me, come see the manager, or talk to us, because Amendment 1, while I asked, it appears to be a tax cut. And it can be for some homes. Just if you don't have a clear understanding of what that means to you and to the village, then if you go to FloridaLeagueOfCities.com, they have a whole PowerPoint that explains it a little better. But again, if that isn't sufficient, then come see me, come see one of us, because Amendment 1 that's on the ballot in November is pretty important. And we're hoping that, you know, residents will, or Miami-Dade County will vote hopefully the right way, or, you know, whatever. But that's really important. But more than anything, what's right about it is you got to be informed. And that's where I'm going with that note. Let's see what else. 2 things coming up. We have a town hall this Saturday. It's going to be all about the budget. You have an opportunity to talk to us. I've met already with the manager and the CFO about that. We have to still go over again a few more things, but it's an opportunity to take a look at what our tax roll. We just got the email today as far as what the final tax roll could look like, and we forwarded it over to the CFO. So we'll have some clear idea as to what numbers would look like for next year in terms of an increase or not. So that's Saturday. And then National Night Out with the police officers is Tuesday, August 7th. And that is also combined with the a backpack giveaway. And then August 28th, for the 4th year in a row, we try to be consistent with our dates. We do have the State of the Village. It's going to be pretty informative. I really encourage the residents to come out. It's an opportunity to, if you can't make it to every meeting throughout the year, it's sort of you get it in one shot. And that will be a videotape. Last year's was not. That one will be, so that it can be either live streamed or on the website thereafter. I have a couple of things on public safety, but I'll talk about that. You'll talk about the special events. I'll close it on a meeting that I attended with the manager, which was a Northeast Corridor Smart Plan meeting. That was pretty, you know, the meeting was great. I think while we want a lot to happen as regards to what that smart plan may look like and how it's going to benefit or impact us, you know, we actually took with us, we asked Juan to come with us, and the attorney for the Little Farm came with us. And I actually had invited Seth, Sam, and the Barentine brothers. They said invite any and all developer from your town to hear what we have to say. The attorney for the Little Farm was pretty excited about the opportunity maybe to be considered or have a station here. And from that meeting, we were able to secure a meeting with the mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, which was actually supposed to be today, and unfortunately, that didn't happen, so we're going to reschedule it for July. But even if not getting a station doesn't happen, I think one of the most important things that we have to keep in mind is that I sent the manager and Juan, I think maybe the attorney, an email, because there was a TPO meeting a couple of days ago, and from that meeting, they've already not only solidified what the stations are, which are only 2, but more importantly are the routes where there's going to be trolleys and the routes where there's going to be bus service. So right now, El Portal is not on that, but Miami Shores is, and North Bay Village is. So I think that's an important conversation to have and to do something about, because right now, yeah, that's great that we're going to have a train station, but it's not great if you got a driver there. I mean, the whole purpose of having a better mobility is to be able to get there. So that's one of the things that I had just sent them, that we need to go to the next meeting, which I think we got another email today. There's a meeting coming up. But more importantly, the mayor of Miami sort of heads a TPO as well. So that's what part of our meeting was going to be. And we're hopefully to reschedule it for July. And Juan will be joining us, and the attorney probably will be joining us as well for that meeting. Let's see, I think, other than that, I think that concludes, my report, yes. Then it goes to, is it the attorney or the manager next? The manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Mine is going to be kind of short, too. I'm going to just go through it because we did touch on a lot of the items that I'm working on, Mayor, as well as the fact that we did a lot of administrative work here in the village over this past month, and hope to kind of finalize some other things for the month of July. But we are, just an update about the Hurricane Irma recovery. We have been in communication with a couple of banks, still attempting to secure a loan. We will keep you informed as that comes to pass. But according to our CFO, the audit will be completed in the next week or so, and we must finalize that funding to pay the vendor as quickly as we can, so that our FEMA consultant can then submit that category, because that is being held up because we haven't paid the vendor yet. So that's another reason we will be working safely, securely, but also quickly to get that vendor paid. I did participate in a lot of meetings over the month with the mayor and other members of the council, including Councilmember Dreyer, when we went to visit or meet with Commissioner Audrey Edmondson, and we had the village interim attorney with us, as well as the Pinoni team of engineers and our project manager, Robert Ruano, with us to discuss the septic to sewer program and our requests of the county. But I'll let you talk more about it if you want, Councilmember Dreyer. But we do have some pending items still waiting, but we're all on schedule, and our engineers have performed all duties. We're almost shovel ready as expected, and we are again concerned with funding, so we will see what happens with that from the county, but that is where we're at with that. Code enforcement, I will let you know that we are out here writing citations, and yes, we had our code enforcement officer over at the Little Farm today, and the citation was written. He has written over 16 code violations for this month. 3 of them were work out of permits, 7 were violations of exterior maintenance, and what have you. So he is writing citations and preparing us also for hurricane for the season. As you know, we've been out clipping trees and preparing them for the hurricane season. We should be finished with that at the end of this week. They're over in the west side of the village now, finishing up. The clippings were only done in the right-of-way and in the alleyways, but we're hurricane prepared in that respect. We will be conducting testing for our backflow prevention devices over the next couple of weeks. We have to do a report and be timely with that for July, so we will be doing that, as well as the Craig A. Smith contract that we have to get us up to standard or get us in compliance with our NPDES MS4 permit annual report. So those are coming along, and the council did approve that that expansion of the service. So they will be ready, we're hoping, by the end of the week. And we are meeting via telephone with the state to ensure that we are all on schedule and meeting deadlines. The mayor did speak about the solid waste matters in the village. We will continue to address it and keep our eyes on that. We are, let's see here. I'm sorry, the El Jardín Stormwater Improvement Project is moving along. We're presently waiting on an easement to further that effort. The easement will have to, the property owner, Mr. Held, has been contacted on a number of occasions, and design plans have been given to him, and we're just waiting his final approval. But once those design plans, once the easement is obtained, then the El Jardín design plans will be submitted, and we'll move forward with that project. The CFO and I continue to work on the 2018-19 proposed budget with the council, and we will be presenting that at the town hall meeting on Saturday, but also working with the council for the upcoming budget meetings that we are required to have. And the village did have a village-wide staff training conducted by the Equal Opportunity Commission here in our chambers, where our full-time police officers, as well as all of our staff, and Councilmember Roman, who generously sponsored the training, attended. So we are doing well and looking forward to the next month of productivity. That's the end of my report.
I have one question, just for clarity. So the audit that's going to finish, that must finish, is that going to enable or assist or put us in a better position for a loan?
Hopefully, yes. The audit, we're in a better position than we have been in the past with these audits, but we do need to present this audit to secure a loan.
Okay. Any other questions for the manager?
It would kind of be good as well. We talked about Christia last Friday in respect to getting more details from the CFO as far as what product line we're going to be pursuing with whether it's going to be just a payment of interest only, right? What options is he going to present to us, right? Based on funding. Yeah, for the funding.
Yes. So when we have something more concrete, I will
definitely
come to every member of council, because we do need to.
Super.
To inform.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's for the written report. Written report always helps to read. Okay, Councilperson Mathis, Public Affairs Chair.
I'm going to defer most everything to the newsletter, but we do have a 4th of July event coming up. It will be on the 4th of July in the top lot, commencing at 11:30 to 1:30.
Who's cooking?
We haven't decided if we're going to cook or cater, but there will be food. And that concludes my report.
There'll be food. Councilperson Dre, Public Works.
Pretty much the update that Christia just provided, moving forward with our local commissioners in order to help us with funding, whether it's a connection fee. So I commend Christia for leading that meeting. I was there, so again, thank you.
Yeah,
thanks
thank
for
you all
that.
for going to that. Public safety, I just have two things. We have a Crime Watch meeting coming up. Officer Battaglia's been diligently on, where is my public safety report? Yes, we have a Crime Watch meeting July 21st. That's a Saturday, to re-kick the town hall. Officer Battaglia has been working on that with David Ward, the resident who was here with the flags. And I also just want to say that was a typo on the newsletter, so there's two misprints. The newsletter said July 14th, I am sorry, but it's July 21st at 10 o'clock. I do apologize for that. And then the next thing is that our interim chief Huffnagel hosted a coffee with our chief on Sunday. It was great. It was really nice. Probably had a total of maybe 5-7 residents that came out. That was pretty much. And I think the only thing that came out of that, I would encourage, is that in moving forward, maybe just make sure we email everybody. But I found out because it was on Nextdoor, it was on Starbucks, it was posted in the front in the building department, so I went. And about 4 or 5 residents were there, and then the president of the PBA actually showed up as well. So it was no cost to the village. The chief was already working that day, and Starbucks sponsored the coffee and the pastries as well. So I wanted to just say thank you for putting that together. Communication is hard. We're all doing a lot, but I just want to be sure that they continue to be encouraged to do really good things. And I know Officer Battaglia is really diligent on social media. So I wanted to point out that was great. Corporal Sharper's here, and I want to thank you because you're always the one that works at midnights and you put the lights on. So I like seeing you go around, and I know you're out there with the lights on. Yes, it's him. So I want to thank you. I know a lot of residents have made a lot of comments about that they like that as you guys are driving by. And that concludes, am I leaving anything out in public safety? Okay, and that concludes my report. Next we have, stand by. We're trying to go paper-free, right? But I'm still old, so I'm old. I like to touch and feel, but I'm working with you guys here, so just gotta bear with me. Who's next on the reports? We have code enforcement. That's me?
Well, no, it's not.
Oh.
It's planning and zoning.
Code enforcement, the only thing look at that. Code enforcement, the only thing I'm gonna say really is, like I said earlier with the sanctuary, they really need to keep up with their word, and I really encourage the manager to tell Robert, to tell Carlos, don't be embarrassed, let's, and as well as the Little Farm. But as far as code enforcement is concerned, and just, eyes and ears out there, there's some, people like to do a lot of things in the summer. Planning and zoning, our last planning and zoning meeting, we talked about the alcohol ordinance, we talked about the garage conversion, and we also talked about the sanctuary. And that was and all of those items passed to what we discussed this evening. And just as a reminder, we try to do most of our work at the committee meeting, so by the time that we get here, most of the conversation has been had. Just those members that are not on the committee need to be aware of what's going on and ask the questions. So just as a reminder to the residents. Next we have admin and finance, Councilperson Roman.
Thank you. So for me, it'll be really short, I promise, Senator. Anyhow, I just want to commend the manager because she's been doing an excellent job. I want, if you guys haven't noticed, if you look around the village hall, inside the offices, there's been tremendous change. This is something that we all talked about a couple years ago when I first came on the council, and it's finally happening, so I want to say thank you. I also want to thank her. We wanted to do this sexual harassment training, and we didn't have it in the budget, and that's why it came out of my side of the budget. But she was very proactive and moving forward, so everything, I'm very happy in the direction that we're moving forward, and that she's definitely doing what she can to get us to where we need to be in the admin and finance, so thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the committee reports. Now we have our Norman Powell, our interim village attorney.
I'll try to be brief also. There's been a number of things going on over the last month. The manager talked about the first item, which is the septic, the sewer. We attended a meeting with the Commissioner Audrey Edmondson, who was kind enough to put together staff from the sewer department and also the water and the school board to try to hash through some of the issues that are still pending. We're also potentially looking at ways where we can look to the county to be a partner in the development of the project. We've also revisited informally the take-home car policy. We continue to try to tweak that in order to address some of the concerns of the police department. Just backing up a little bit, in order to actually have that meeting with Commissioner Edmondson, it took a lot of work between the manager, our consultants, and myself in putting together a position white paper as to what we're asking. The Sanctuary Project, as you've seen tonight, there's been a lot of discussions that have been had with staff and also the applicant concerning the various items that came up which required legal vetting and also resident input, and just simply working with the consultant, our planning consultant, to see what fifths we can assure to make sure the residents can live with the project going forward. Councilman Mathis, may refer to the proposed charter amendment?
We're going to discuss that now?
Well, okay, we'll skip that. I've tweaked the proposed rules of procedure, which will appear hopefully next month, or we'll wait to the recess. I did get some good input from some of the residents. They sent me emails. I did take into account the lively discussion we had on it, so I pared it down consistent with the feel and size of our meetings, and also with the expectation that we're going to try to streamline not only the delivery of the agenda packages that the mayor has, I think, pointed out several times tonight. I think that's it generally. Last, the manager and I did workshop the agreement with an expert in the industry, as I would like to point out, concerning tweaks that we may suggest to the agreement with the ultimate agreement with the county for the septic to sewer project. So that's generally pretty much my report.
Okay, great, any questions for the attorney? Okay, hearing none, thank you everybody for your report. Senator Campbell, you are on. Thank you for being here with the legislative update.
I thought you were going to sleep.
What time is it?
I'm so glad to be here anyway. I'm so glad to be with you all, and I'm here just to say thank you to the mayor, vice mayor, and the council. And with your new city manager, I heard you're very good here. That's great. And our city attorney, Norman Powell. Anyway, everybody knows what happened in Tallahassee this session. It was horrible. And everything was okay, but at the end, after the shooting at Douglas High School, everything changed. We fought hard. You have two great ladies, Eli Noddles and Nelson Diaz. They worked tirelessly, but it's not their fault. If the city didn't receive any money at all, and truly it's the first year, it's true. Your mayor, lives in Tallahassee. She sleeps in Tallahassee. She does everything in Tallahassee to make sure her city is well taken care of. But unfortunately this year, everything failed. And I guarantee you next year is not going to be the same. No one knew, we were going to have, that shooting. No one knew. It just happened, and then the chaos started. So with that said, I thank you all for everything you have done for the city and all the support you have given me and the mayor, my sister, my heart, my friend. I love you, always love you. And I know you're doing a great job to the city. So we have to give this city another name now, City on the Move. Because I hear, you're doing all the great things here. So we need to give another little, maybe City on the Sunshine. How we want to call it?
Keep it up with El Portal.
Keep it up with El Portal. So that's another good one. So with that said, what I did this year for you, and Mayor, I want you to read it on your own, is a page 31 in that little booklet. I did a resolution recognizing the village of El Portal on the occasion of the 81st anniversary of its incorporation. So the village is going to be 81 years old. So I did the resolution for the village. It's a token of my appreciation and token of my love. And I'm going to give a copy to everyone, to the mayor, vice mayor, council, and our city manager, our village manager as well. So she will get one. So it's a token of my appreciation, and I say I love you all. Mayor, can you read it? You need to read it.
Florida Senate Resolution by Senator Campbell. A resolution recognizing the village of El Portal on the occasion of the 81st anniversary of its incorporation. Whereas the village of El Portal was incorporated in 1937 and now boasts a population of more than 2,500 in an area of approximately 0.6 square miles. And whereas the village of El Portal is home to Indian Mound, the first archaeological site in Miami-Dade County to be preserved, which is located on the northern bank of the Little River, just south of Village Hall. And whereas the ancient Tequesta Indian Mound was designated a United States Bicentennial Historic Site and as a public park in the 1920s. And whereas the Village of El Portal Council is led by Mayor Claudia V. Cubillos and Vice Mayor Omar C. Nickerson, and residents are represented by councilpersons Warner Dreher, Harold E. Mathis Jr., and Vimati Roman. And the interim, well, now village manager, is Christia Alou. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the State of Florida that the Village of El Portal is recognized on the occasion of its 81st anniversary of its incorporation.
Wow, come on, guys, that's a good thing. So I'm gonna give, and let me say thank you to all the residents of the village as well. And after I present it to each one of them, you guys will come with us and have a picture together because this is for you. And I'm gonna call the mayor first. Mayor. Mayor, come down, please. Vice Mayor is not here. Councilman Harold Mattis. Councilman Werner Dreher. Come on. Councilwoman Vanelli.
You're going to get a picture for them.
And city manager. And city attorney, you're going to come forward to get, it's a copy for you in your office.
Have your walls, please.
That's just to put in your office.
Thank you.
You give all the time, so this time you have to get one of those. Thank you.
Very nice.
Who's taking pictures?
And very framed.
Of course, I think it's your friend.
Madam Clerk, you gotta get in here, you're part of the village.
I'm good, I'm good.
You know you're going to come out of the picture.
No, she didn't.
No.
In the background. Come everyone, please.
Ms. Kiko, Ms. Old.
Officer, come here. No, you're not good. Come. She's not. Come, please.
They Senator Camomila de Pico.
She don't.
Senator Camomila de Pico.
No, she's gonna come there, you know. I'm good too. I don't think we all fit. We fit.
Thank you so much, Senator. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm good.
No, you have to. Thank you.
Ella no, pero tú sí.
Okay, she's done. Can I go?
Thank you, Senator Cameron, for the legislative update, and definitely thank you for the resolution on our 81st, which I can't even believe that's already coming up. That's crazy. There is no new business at this time. Anybody in good and welfare? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting? Motion been made by Councilwoman Roman, and second by Councilperson Mathis. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Hearing none, our June 26th meeting ends at 9:57 p.m.